Welcome to day 2 of bLU Talk's Amplify Your Message. I am your host, Laura Lake, and today I'm joined by my co-host, Erin McCarthy. I want to just switch things up because I'm learning to be a little more assertive and be a little more badass and lean a little bit more into me and receiving. So I'm actually going to introduce myself first, Erin, which will give you a little bit of time to be like, okay, got my notes, all the stuff and things. So for those who have never seen me before, never heard from me before, my name is Laura Lake. What I stand for is what I call courageous connection. And as we were discussing in the background, I have a background in engineering and in architecture, but that kind of flowed into entrepreneurship and storytelling because of my journey with mental health. My emotional dip, since Corey talks about the dip, especially in the boot camp, boot camp's on the 21st through 23rd. He talks about the dip. I talk about the emotional dip. My emotional dip is about rejection going to connection. Like all the skills I've learned is about that. Using the engineering, using the architecture, all the stuff and things. So that is a little bit about my background, and I love it. So Erin, can you tell us just a little bit about you and where you're coming from so that we know your heart when you're asking questions today?
Absolutely. Most of my life, I felt lost and overwhelmed and unsure of the next step. And I've faced deep adversity, moments of doubt, and times where I wondered if I'd ever break free from the struggles weighing me down. I've been through a lot of things, and my purpose is to help others through my story. And I know that, and I've known that since I was little, and I'm just grateful to be here.
Aw, thanks so much, Erin. So we do have our first guest waiting in the background. So Annie, just give me a thumbs up if you're ready to join us. Awesome. Welcome, Annie.
Hello, everybody.
Hi. Now, I know we mentioned in the pre-show that nobody gets to see about the painting in the background because, yes, it is so beautiful. We were using the engineering problem-solving skills to be like, is that sunrise or sunset? I will leave that answer up to our audience because I think that's kind of fun. I'll give you the answer later if you want. So I do love to start off all our interviews with a question just to shake things up. I want to get to know Annie, the real Annie, not the picture perfect painting of Annie that we
angelic.
So here's my shake up question.
Yeah.
If you could have other people describe you in just 3 words, what would you love those 3 words to be?
I would say integrity, soulful, and fun, playful.
So you said integrity, soulful, and fun or playful.
Yeah.
So of course the follow-up question is, how do those 3 words, integrity, soulful, and fun or playful, it's just the energy behind the words, how do they play a role in the core message that you have for people?
Oh, that's so great. Well, you know, a lot of people over the years have called me bold and ambitious, and I've even been called a maverick in a feature cover article in a magazine, which I was like, oh, I like that. I'll take it. And I've been in financial services for over 2 decades now. And I've helped thousands of clients through their, goals and needs. And I've actually coached financial advisors as well on their practice and how to help clients. My DNA is basically trying to figure out all the what if solutions and possible paths. And, so I've got plan A, B, C, D, E, and so on. Always in my mind. I mean, even when it's how do I get all the errands done today, it's what's the best route to take, right? It's on all the time. And a lot of people also tend to think that financial planners and advisors like me have it all together, right? We've got a money situation figured out. We never make mistakes. And the fact is that there was a time in my life when things were not as they appeared. And I'll never forget November 2016. It was like a really cold morning. And there I was with my then husband's phone, heart racing, praying I wouldn't find what I suspected. Swipe. There it was. Pictures, emails, all the things that no partner should have to deal with. Person that you're supposed to trust, that has your back, right? My daughter was 2 at the time, sleeping blissfully in her room in her crib. And I just remember my heart was racing so fast that I actually thought I was going to die. And for a millisecond, I thought, maybe it's best that I'm not here. But real quick, a voice inside of me reached out of the depths of my soul and said, no, you need to live. You need to live for your daughter. No one will protect her like you will. No one will love her like you will. No one will show her the beauty of life like you will. You need to live, Annie, and not just for her, but for you. You have no idea what you're about to step into, the magnitude of who you are. And so there I was. I'd fallen to my knees at this point because I was just trying to calm my heart rate down. And I was just trying to breathe in and out, trying to live to the next second and the next second, thinking, what do I do now? Nobody knows. Nobody knows what I'd been struggling through. My mind was spinning. My stomach was churning. And I felt like my life was in shambles. I felt shame. And nothing was sure anymore. I had not planned for this. Me, the planner, with all the backup plans, could not foresee this happening. And I thought, the things that you never want to think, which is, what will everyone think of me? What will they say? So at first I did nothing at all. And days turned into a couple weeks. And then out of the blue, my mom calls me. Hey, Mom. How'd you know I really needed to talk to you? What is it, Annie? Well, I know you believe in marriage forever, and so do I. But what if that wasn't the case for me? And without hesitation, she said, I'd say you're a very smart girl. Without hesitation. Tears started coming down my face because it was as if I didn't know I needed her permission, her validation. And she didn't know what was going on. So I said to her, okay, Mom, I got to make some calls and I got to take care of some things. But once I have that sorted, I'll call you and I'll tell you everything, okay? And she said, okay, Annie, I'll talk to you soon. Now, take a moment and think, man, if you're, as a parent, you know your child is in pain and you don't know what's going on and you just let him be. That was massive for me and in my relationship with my mom. And I'll never forget the day when I walked into the family lawyer's office for the first time. And I said, I have my certified financial planning designation. Because I felt like that was the only thing I had going for me. And even then I was grateful because I know most people don't have even that. See, I thought I was being a good wife because even though we both earned an income and he earned double mine, I was paying all the bills somehow. I don't even remember how that happened. And he had some debt and I had a promotional rate in my name. So I said, you know what? I'll take your debt into my name. I've got a promotional rate. We'll pay it down faster. And that way we can save for our house sooner. And we had a plan for him to pay me back, but somehow it never quite happened. And one day, because, you know, once one thing comes up, it's like a Pandora's box of things starts to come up, and you don't even have to look for it. It just happens. I found a document for a $2,000 loan, just $2,000, but from one of those cash money mart places, right? And what blew my mind was that the interest rate was like 38 or 39%. And I just remember asking him, so, you know, knowing that I was paying all the bills at this point, what did you use the money for? And I never got the answer. But that, in combination with a bunch of other things that came out of that, was an undeniable point of action for me. It was a huge catalyst of change, because since then, you know, I went from being a team member to a team leader to leaving the corporate world and becoming an entrepreneur, something I'd never imagined. I went from being $40,000 in debt. Again, me, the financial planner, giving sound, logical advice to people, making financial decisions emotionally in my own life. Because that's how people relate to money, right? And I ended up going from all that debt to having 6 figures in savings as a single parent with full-time custody of my daughter. And my daughter blossomed. You know, our life became so much more beautiful, and really it was best for everybody. But more importantly, I was able to trust myself again. I found my voice, because it had been choked up. It had been suppressed for so long. And once I was able to connect my voice to my heart and know what really mattered, what was truly important, and then take that step into the powerful Annie, man, my life, totally different. And that was 8 years ago. So this is why I do what I do today, is to help people going through life transitions, to let them understand. I think, Laura, you said, I don't know if that was before we started or just at the beginning, but for you, it's about getting to the human being of a person. And that's what I do with the people that I work with, whether it's, you know, my clients, or whether it's mentoring and coaching advisors on their practice and leaders in the industry too, or whether it's speaking to share the message that, hey, you're not alone. And you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to know what's happening at the end, or what's the 10th step. All you need to know is the next right step. And so integrity has been a huge piece for me. Clearly with my story, you know, uncovering all these lies and betrayals became even more important to not just handle myself, have self-integrity, but also look for integrity in others. In terms of playful, it was about learning how to have fun again. You know, Valentine's Day is coming up, right? And I mean, if January is known as divorce month. So if you're right, if it's uncanny. And for sure, January 17th is the day I said, hey, this isn't working anymore, right? And I didn't know I was becoming part of a statistic, which really bothers me because I like to be a rebel. Okay. But here's the thing. For those who have made that decision in January to like break up, February can suck unless you find a way to have fun with it. February is like the beginning of your first year of all the firsts after grieving anything, a situation, a person. And then when you're going through a breakup, you're actually grieving someone who's still alive, who still exists. You're grieving the possibilities and the future dreams that you had, all of that. And so what I do now for Valentine's, and I'm actually talking about this on my YouTube channel, which I just started, another example of like finding my voice and speaking up. and really helping others when it comes to, money concepts in a relatable way. What I do with my daughters, I actually look forward to Valentine's Day now. I make it a big thing in my house with my daughter, and like I decorate. I never used to decorate. I never was into like the glitter and the glam and like all the extra stuff. But now, yeah, why not? And she loves it. And seeing her face light up and not knowing what surprises I've got planned for her, and then we always do a dinner. And sometimes it's just, we got to go out for dinner because mommy needs to relax too. Right. And there are places, there are restaurants that will do like pizza in a heart shape for Valentine's. So that's really cool. And so playful is also became really important because I felt like I was so burdened and so heavy for so long and so suppressed in so many ways. And so that's why playful is important. And then the soulful part, I think, kind of came through, in the last couple minutes when people share their stories with me, they feel safe. They tend to tell me things that they've never really told other people. And it's because they know that, one, I've got the integrity to keep that.
I forgot I was muted. Just that, Aaron, as well, when audio and visual are off at the same time, it kicks you off stage. I'll bring you back up.
Good to know.
There we go. I didn't know. I just heard you saying it kicked me off stage. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm back.
Yeah.
And so, we were talking about Valentine's Day. I really do it up big. And then when people talk to me, I have a little bit of playfulness because I want people to have fun when it comes to, the serious stuff, the stuff that's really concerning to them, that they're stressed out about and have anxiety about, which is whether it's their careers or their financial situation or their family situation. And that wisdom comes with the combination of integrity and playfulness, and having some life experiences. So I'd say that's the kind of the short, long answer to your question.
I like short, long answers, especially when they have stories in them.
Yeah.
There were so many things that popped into my mind, though. And I think the biggest thing that I want to share with you right now is I do love that idea of course, the self-love. The self-love is very important. But even as a single mom or somebody who is close with their daughter, kid, whichever. I have a daughter, so it's my daughter. The best day that we spent together was when we just decided to go to Halifax Fashion Week because we were invited by a friend of mine who was a sponsor.
Nice.
But we made a whole day of it.
Yeah.
Like we dressed up, like she was wearing my Jessica Rabbit dress. I had like a nice jumpsuit on. Oh yeah, we went all out and we spent the whole day together. And now you're making me want to do it again, but a little more like home scale instead of city scale for Valentine's Day.
Yes.
So special.
I love that. Well, you know what? If there's something you can blame me for, I'd be happy to be blamed for that.
Okay, I'm going to blame you for that, Annie. And because our kids, we talk about mental health and emotions a lot. You brought that up with your story. The teenage years tend to be really like this. And relationships, same kind of thing. And my daughter and I had that deep conversation just yesterday. So I think just like you and your daughter did, where you just decided to decorate for Valentine's Day and celebrate these little holidays. I think more of that in our lives, even if we just put up that one sparkly glam sign that says like, Happy Valentine's Day, something to have more of those little celebrations.
Yeah.
So if we take that whole concept of celebrating, especially with the people that we love, how do you love to take this message that you have and celebrate those small moments with your clients? How do you get them to do that?
Oh, that's so great. So one of the things that typically tends to fall through in the financial industry is the follow-up. And I talk about this a little bit because I've been seeing this for so long. And there's a lot of really good advisors who've got it figured out. And I know both, male and female advisors who are wonderful, although there is a lot of research to support that this is why women tend to be great advisors, is because they nurture the relationship, which is what you're asking me about. They educate their clients, they spend the time to educate, and all this while still, performing well for your portfolio and in your investments and all that. And so one of the things to really help with that is, one, we need to take notes of, when people are really talking to us about what's important to them, and all the little things too, right? Because listen, we've all got lots happening in our life. Possibly remember everything. I remember a lot, but there's things that when I refer back to my notes, I get that little bit of like, aha, I forgot that little detail, right? But also just setting up little tasks or, moments of celebration. You have to be really intentional about it, because we have a tendency to just move forward and keep doing the next thing and focus on the next thing. And we never take a moment to just kind of look back, at the mountain that we just climbed and said, well, hey, I ended up here at the top, and what a view, right? I think it's really important too, to share with others, what are your goals? What are your hopes and dreams, so that others can bear witness and remind you of the things that I have some really good friends who, they always come in when I'm in that moment of, man, I feel like I haven't done enough. I feel like, I have all this stuff on my to-do list. And meanwhile, I haven't looked at my to-done list. Right. And I got that phrase from a mentor of mine. But when you speak up and share, you create community. And that community then voices back to you and echoes back to you. Remember when you said this? Remember when you were wishing and hoping for this? Remember when you were taking these steps to achieve this thing? And then you just got to take a moment and allow that person the space and the time. And sometimes you have to hold it for them until they're ready to do it for themselves. And just remind them of those beautiful moments. And one of the things I've actually learned, because I love neuroscience, and how the brain works. And Laura, I just saw your face light up there.
Oh, of
we
course.
could talk about this all day, right?
Yes, we could.
So one of the things I've learned, because I'm a big self-development believer, and so I've done a lot of work on myself. So not just so I can be the a better version of me over time and a more evolving version of me, but also to be the person that my daughter needs me to be, right? And to be the type of friend that my friends need me to be, and be the type of family member and daughter that my parents and other family members need me to be. But one of the things I've learned is to take a moment, to consciously take a moment in two ways. One, when you're celebrating something that you finally got to, and you really intentionally have to pause and like do a little dance. I love dancing, and I used to be a dancer as well. Whether it's like ballet or cultural, I'm multicultural as well. So, cultural dancing and all that, but I'll put a good jam on my, whether it's my phone or the TV, or in the car is awesome. You just turn it up, right? And you just jam and you hear the beats, and I'll take that, whether it's 10 seconds, a minute, or however long you need it to be, and just celebrate like, yes, I did this thing. The second thing is when you do something, you take just one little step to do something difficult, to do something you've been avoiding, but you ultimately know you need to do. And, for people that are trying to figure out their relationship with money, it might be just picking up the phone to make the call to make an appointment. It might be just taking that $10 or however much works for you, to just move that over into your investment and savings account, or even just opening up your account to see what's happening in my bank account. Like that's actually a scary step for a lot of people. So when you have something that you're scared to do, or you're trying to avoid, or it's, you're not looking forward to doing it, or it's unpleasant, when you take one little step, celebrate that. Like my daughter hates to do homework. Anybody else? Like parents?
I love homework.
I like soul work.
There you go. So when it's something that you love to do, it doesn't feel like work at all. But my daughter is one of those. I mean, she's kind of a genius in her own way. She gets it right the first time. So her thinking is like, why do I have to repeat it? Like, why do I have to do it over and over again? And I try to tell her, like, well, if you got it right the first time, you have to show that you can do it time and time again, consistently, right? But here's the thing: the way I get her to do homework, and there's a parenting tip for you, for whoever's listening, is because she detests it so much, because it really brings up a lot of frustrations and anxiety in her, which is so hard to watch on our kids' faces. I just tell her, okay, let's pick 2 minutes. She can pick the time. Do you want 1 minute, 2 minutes? We'll time it. Do as much as you can in the 1 or 2 minutes. Then we pause. Even if she didn't complete the answer, we'll pause. And then I was like, okay, how do you want to celebrate? You want to, like, cuddle with the dog? Do you want to dance? So her and I will dance together and like jump around. And I'll say, okay, so now how much time do you want to practice? And inevitably she'll say, okay, now I want 5 minutes, because she had fun. And so it's kind of helping her to reprogram, and we can take this for ourselves as well, is that when the brain realizes that, hey, I get to celebrate after doing this one little hard thing, this one little step, then the next one isn't so hard. And I can look forward to celebrating that too. So I try to integrate, some of that neuroscience and, some of those kind of stories and experiences with the people that I support.
I find when my daughter tells me, oh yeah, this is really easy, I don't need to do the questions, it's like, okay, teach me.
Yes.
And then in the process of trying to teach me, she knows whether I say it to her or not, where it is that she needs to improve her understanding. It's like, if you can't explain it to me so that I could do it correctly the way that you were taught, then you don't quite know it as well as you thought, did you?
And that's great, because, when we teach, we learn twice.
Yep.
And so I'm also a part-time professor at a local college. And one of the things I get the students to do is to actually say words out loud with me as I'm teaching them, because this is the lingo that they're not familiar with.
Yep.
Right. And I mean, most people aren't familiar with, a lot of like industry lingo. Right. And so when I get them to repeat it, and especially I get them to do presentations.
Ooh.
So, and inevitably, when the test or exam comes around, they're experts on their particular topic, because they spend so much time researching and practicing it. And then the rest, they kind of have to work a little harder at.
Yeah. One of the things my daughter's told me many times is, I don't like French, Mom. I don't like French. And it didn't matter that most of her family history and stuff is French. That doesn't matter to her so much, until she wanted to dance and sing in a K-pop group, which is Korean pop, for those who don't know. So now she's learning Korean. And just today is her first day in the French immersion program before she goes to high school next year.
Oh, wow.
Like, okay, sure. We've been trying to lovingly push you in there, because those are the types of students that she gets along with a little better. And we were like, the whole moving transition was hard. You should probably be in this program because you're good at it, and that's the type of students you like. And she's like, no. She's in it now. And she came home crying with happy tears.
Oh, yay.
Because she tested it yesterday, and today's her first full day. So she'll probably come home again today and be like, this is the best day ever.
Oh,
I love that you said a couple of things there, because they just, synchronicities that just happened to come up in my life as well. So you mentioned K-pop, and
Yes.
my daughter just recently said, Mom, I want to learn this like K-pop dance, like out of nowhere.
Which one?
I don't remember the name now, but she practiced it, and then she showed me the video.
Yeah.
And, and speaking of playful, there's a part of me that said, hey, go learn with her, like go practice with her.
Oh, it's so fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I wanted her to do it first just for herself, without like mommy's energy kind of coming into it. And I've got a dancing background. So I'm prone to being like, oh no, it's like this. You got to put the foot here. And like, it's on this beat. And so I've got to really watch myself so that I continue to support and encourage her.
Yeah.
And instead of, overtaking the fun for her.
Yep. And yet at the same time, K-pop is very precise in the way that they dance. They're very well trained and they spend a lot of time making it look perfect.
Yeah. And do you ever watch Korean shows on Netflix?
Oh, constantly.
I love it. I am a big international show and movie watcher. Always, have been for years. And so I was really happy when Netflix started incorporating more of that, because I'm multicultural as well. So, and I'll actually listen to it in the original language.
Yes.
Right, with the English subtitles on the bottom, because that's my way of learning languages too.
Me too.
And my mom, she's Polish, and the last name is also Armenian. So my mom actually learned English by listening to songs on the radio, like the Beatles. And that's how she started to learn English. A little bit in school, but it was way more fun to learn from a song that you love, right?
I'm trying to remember exactly how to say it. Okay, the one phrase she taught me was "annyeonghaseyo."
Annyeonghaseyo, okay.
And I think "annyeong" is like hello or some sort of greeting, and then "asayo" is more of the respect afterwards. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right. My apologies if I'm not. But like she's teaching me and I'm slowly learning.
Yeah. Well, I just recalled, it was actually almost a year ago today that I decided to foster a dog. Oh. And I was like, it's only 1 month. And I'll tell you why this is connected.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's only for 1 month. Right. And I knew I could do 1 month, and then I was going away for a conference for a week. And I know my daughter's natural strengths. And I've done the Colby assessment on her as well as for me. And part of that is about really trusting your instincts. Mm-hmm. And so I knew that having an animal in the house that she could actually touch. We had a fish in an aquarium. She's like, at first it was great. And then it's like, I can't touch him, mommy. I can't touch fish. So it's not fun. So I decided to connect with a local dog rescue. Mm-hmm. And it turns out the dog was coming from Korea. Of all places.
Yeah.
And so his name was Duke.
Okay.
And of course, I had to crack a joke and say, well, of course, only royalty allowed in this household, right? Mm-hmm. And so he comes, and he's perfect.
Aww.
Now, if you know anything about rescues, what happens is, okay, what just happened there?
I don't know. That's fun, though.
Yeah. Okay. This is very interesting. Hold on a sec. I'm going to unplug this and replug this because this is weird.
It kind of looks like it's trying to go from one camera to another camera.
Oh, okay. So
because you have the out view and then the zoomed view.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening there, but it's very interesting. So I get this dog, and if you know anything about rescues, and think of this in terms of people who've been through stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So trauma, the whole kind of thing. And some, there's different levels and different kind of variations, but it kind of all feels the same to that person. And so what they warn you about when you get a rescue dog, is don't force them out of the crate. Don't put your head and face next to theirs, too close to theirs, right? You've got to really let them come out on their own, which is like such a metaphor for relationships in life, right? And I thought, man, this is, based on what others have told me, because this was my first time fostering, people said, like, it's going to take a while, so just be patient. Like, a while meaning like it could take a week or two, so you got to really be patient. Well, I got him, and about 18 hours later, this dog was on my living room floor, out of the crate, paws up in the air, living a blissful life. And I just thought, man, if he could trust me, I can trust me too. And so he ended up being what I call a foster win, because now we've had him for almost a year. We decided to keep him.
Yay.
And, he's from Korea. And it's funny because I was walking him around my neighborhood, and there's a church close by. And one time there was a Korean service, I didn't know. And all these people start coming out of the church. And of course, they're loving, this dog. And so I sat down and I was, spending some time with these people. And turns out they were from Korea. And I said, oh, yeah, he's from Korea. I just, he flew in and from a rescue. And one of them said, thank you. Thank you for saving him. And thank you for saving him from our country. And I was just like, wow, she was so touched, and it was such a beautiful way to connect with people.
Mm-hmm.
And so this dog, it's one of those things that is totally unplanned, but perfectly aligned.
Yeah.
And he has brought such riches to my life. Connections, relationships, community. I mean, I used to always walk in my neighborhood and I got to know the neighbors, but when you have a dog, it's like a whole nother level. Like you just got like you got the password and you got just let into this like whole other club, that is so supportive. And before I made that decision, I had to do my due diligence, especially as a planner. Like, can I afford this?
Mm-hmm.
Do I have time and energy and resources for this, especially as a single parent? And every concern I had, it was like an answer came, just landed in my lap to the point where I couldn't say no to this dog. It was just a beautiful thing. And I have to say that my life, again, it was a catalyst again in my life, this time a positive one. I mean, they're all ultimately positive because it's really what you do with it, right? And if you look at it as a learning opportunity, then it's always going to be, you leveling up and just growing more into yourself. But this dog he's been so wonderful in our lives. And another metaphor for me about trust. Trusting yourself, trusting your instincts, trusting the universe, to align things for you when you're ready and able. And even when I take him out for a walk, I don't force him into situations. I watch and I wait, and I let him trust his instincts. And it becomes this really symbiotic relationship, and we have such a bond that I couldn't have ever imagined. So yeah, I didn't know that I would have more space in my heart for love until he came along.
Aww.
Yeah.
I want to keep going, but I'm also really mindful of time, and I want to make sure that people know where to find you.
Yes. So you can find me. I have a website, annieizmirliyan.com. I also just started my YouTube channel in January, so not too long ago, and that's called at Annie Unleashed. In other words, release your voice and speak up and trust yourself and all that jazz. And so I'll talk about things I'll talk about some parenting things, but especially about financial concepts and making them relatable and talking about all the stuff that nobody really gets to talk about. And so you can find me there, but I'm also on LinkedIn as well, Annie Izmirliyan, and you should find me there and all the things that I'm up to and the ways that I'm contributing to the community and collaborating with others. I love collaborating. And so, yeah, I'm really looking forward to continuing our connection with you ladies, but also with the broader bLU community and anyone else who's listening. And I know we're almost wrapping up here. And I just wanted to take a moment to make sure I have this moment to really thank you for holding space for me.
Of course.
And allowing me to share my story. And Laura, I know you love pulling on the threads of stories, which I love doing as well. And I felt really supported here. And so I wanted to thank you for that.
Thank you. Okay, in about 60 seconds, I always like to end by asking if there's anything in your head or on your heart that you just need people to take away from this conversation.
Trust yourself. Be patient. Mm-hmm. Be patient. Patience has gotten me a lot farther. And I'm not always a patient person, just so you know. But patience has gotten me a lot farther, and trusting my instincts and giving myself the time to really connect with myself. And sometimes that shows up in your body. So listen to your body, have patience, trust yourself, and beautiful things will come into your life easily.
And effortlessly.
Yes.
Easily and effortlessly. Yeah.
Yes.
So I want to thank you, Annie, for being here, and we'll call this an official close to the interview part. But we do have a couple minutes before our next guest, and so I like to use these couple minutes just to kind of do an insight recap kind of thing. What was something that stood out to you in our conversation? Because this is perfect for reels.
Oh, you know, mentioning something as random as K-pop. And also French immersion. I did French immersion too. So I can relate to your daughter's shifting into that kind of an education and a new situation, a new environment, new people, and all that stuff. Yeah. Just, I always find it interesting when seemingly random things are mentioned in a conversation, but they totally have a connection.
Always.
Right? Mm-hmm. And I find that the more I step into myself, the more I step into trusting myself, into trusting my voice, into trusting, what's meant for me, the more these beautiful things happen, like these synchronicities and random things that are mentioned in conversation, which literally it was last night that my daughter said, "Mommy, I want to practice this K-pop dance." So, and it was the first time.
Yeah.
So I love that.
You should send me which one she's working on, because I might have already started learning that one.
I love it. I will, and then we can tag each other on what's happening next in our daughter's lives and in our children's lives. And now I feel like I'm a mom of two because I got the fur baby. Yes. I just think the synchronicities, and Aaron mentioning, I think that was in our pre-conversation about crystals and really connecting with the very things and the tools that also help us connect with ourselves. Mm-hmm. Whatever that may be for each of you. But again, synchronicity. And I know I could see the money tree in Aaron's background. And I know that's a Pachira because I've had one. And it's just like, you couldn't have had like the most two perfect people based on, the things that I'm interested in and connected with. Mm-hmm. It's, synchronicities rock.
I love it. So Aaron, I'm going to pick on you for the next little bit. What is something that stood out to you during our conversation?
Ooh, I love the tip with taking your time with your daughter. Mm-hmm. And, when she gets frustrated, my daughter's 15. She had a very traumatic delivery. So she has special needs, and being able to take a time out to have some fun is such a potent, powerful way to connect with her. And I'm going to use that later today because she's been struggling. So thank you.
And when you take that moment, Aaron, it feels timeless.
Yeah.
It's so special.
Aww.
Yeah. I would say that was another thing I think that the three of us shared, is that making special time or special moments that don't kind of fall into maybe the way that we grew up, but how do we take something and make it kind of special, even in little ways? Mm-hmm. I think that was probably the other thing that stood out for me. Because if we can, I heard this great saying, and I love to share it. Today, make sure that you're special to someone, but to make sure that you do it right, make sure that you're special to yourself first.
Aww.
Yeah.
Yep. I'll just use this word right here, the worthy part.
To me. Yes.
As a reminder for everyone. I guess I'll tell just a short little story bringing all this in. For Christmas, I wanted to get something really meaningful for my daughter because it's been a tough past couple of years. And so I know what it is that she loves. I know what it is that she likes, that she's interested in, that she would enjoy. And I found a drag queen called Monet Exchange who sings opera, who's going to be singing opera music with the Halifax Symphony in the city. And so I got tickets because she also played clarinet for a while. She loves music. She loves band. Like, to her, she opened the gift and she started to have tears in her eyes. And I was like, yes! That I was hopeful for that kind of reaction of just like an excitement, like I got it right. I was not expecting the tears. And the tears was just like, my mom knows me. That moment, I finally felt like a good mom, even though we have lots of little moments where we are, but sometimes we forget it. But just that one tear just was the big reminder that I'll never forget. Yes, I am a good mom.
Aw.
Aww.
Right? It's just, our kids just reflect so much back at us.
Yeah. And I mean, we could have a whole conversation about knowing when we're a good mom and feeling like we're a good mom.
Yeah. That's a whole other interview for another
That's a
day.
whole nother interview.
Which we might have to do. So I want to thank you again for sticking around just for some chat afterwards. Thank you so much, Annie.
Oh, my pleasure, ladies. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
And we do have our next guest in the background. Rob, just give me a thumbs up if you're ready to join us. A nod is not a thumbs up. Hi, Rob.
Hi, Laura. How are you?
Oh, I'm going to take that water reminder, everybody.
Get rehydrated. It's definitely a peak performance strategy.
Oh, I'm going to guess that that's something we're going to be talking about here soon. Wink, wink. Okay. So, Rob, the way I love to start off interviews is to kind of get to know the human being behind the message, behind the business, and to shake up all those pre-programmed responses we tend to get in interviews like this. So if you're ready to play with me, I'd love to ask you.
Go ahead. I'm open.
Okay, Rob, if you could have other people describe you in 3 words, what would you love those 3 words to be?
Resilience, perseverance, and wise.
I can't write as fast as you can talk. So Rob said all that. So resilience, perseverance, and wise. If you take the energy and the concept of those words, how does that play a role in the core message that you have for people?
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe that everyone is on a journey towards uncovering who they truly are.
Mhm.
And of course, some folks don't really embark on this journey and others do. But ultimately, if you want to progress on this journey, you need those 3 traits or whatever you want to call them, because as both of you know, it's uncovering and walking through the darkness is where you learn the most about who you are.
Mm. So then, what is the core message that you have?
It depends who we're talking to.
Okay, so this is the show called Amplify Your Message. We are talking to speakers, authors, podcasters, coaches, change makers, disruptors, like people who have stories of struggle. They had to go find their own answers, and now they have created a message from that journey to share with other people so that other people don't feel the way that they used to feel. So that's our audience. So what kind of core message do you have for that type of audience?
It's exactly that, right? It's being your authentic or your true self, which is going to resonate the most with people. And our culture talks about how genius is outside of ourselves, but it's actually inside, and learning who you are and the gifts that you were put here with is often the best way to unlock that genius.
So I'm going to guess that there's a story of your own life behind the reason why you do this for other people. Can you share a little bit about that with us?
Yeah, so I'm a classic high achiever. And I learned this in childhood, right? But, my parents were big on do well in school. So it was like I'm an A student. I played water polo. I got on the junior national team. And then I went to MIT. I have a mechanical engineering degree, classic overachiever, right? And when I got into, after MIT, I got a job in coal mining, and it's when I encountered my first bad boss. And that sort of sent me down this rabbit hole of depression and then ultimately a suicide attempt in 2013. And when I started going on my healing journey, which was actually 6 years after that, when I started going on my healing journey, it was teaching me that all of this stuff about achieve more, do more, show, like, it was all externally facing, so I could feel like I belonged, or I feel like people would accept me for who I am. But ultimately, we need to accept ourselves, and there's nothing externally that's going to feed or close that loop.
Yeah. I've shared this many times, Rob. I have been there too. My attempt was actually in grade 9, and I've almost died 7 times. Many of those are mental health related. And I know that that is a difficult conversation to have, especially in the spaces that do talk about high performance and achievement, because that is taboo. We do not talk about our failures in those spaces, only the rah, rah, rah hustle. So, excuse me. How have you found the harmony, since we've been using that word this week instead of balance? How have you found the harmony between those two different mindsets and states of being?
So you're absolutely right. However, you know this, right? Is the folks that do the most are the ones that hurt the most. Now, whether they acknowledge it or not is a whole separate conversation, right?
Oh, yeah, that's a whole other day of conversations. Yeah.
But obviously, since we're folks that do this type of work, the folks that come to us have acknowledged it in some way, whether they're burnt out, whether they're not seeing success anymore, whether they're not feeling happy after achieving their biggest goal, whatever that is. Mm-hmm. And then they're willing to take that step. And so that's really where, sharing my own journey or sharing your journey, Laura or Aaron, that's where folks can connect in, right? And everybody knows that, whatever the Instagram or social media life is not real. It's just like we look at it and we're like, man, our friends are doing so well and we're all garbage inside, right? But it's like they feel that too. Yeah. And so it's this weird, like we think we're alone in our own perspective, and yet everybody feels some version of this.
Okay, now the song I Think We're Alone Now is playing in my head on repeat. But we're really not. And I know that in the moment we tend to say that to people to try to help them feel better. You're not the only one suffering with this. There are other people that understand you. And while it can be comforting, it's also very frustrating at the same time. Can you just validate the way that I'm feeling before you try to make me feel better? And we're all guilty of doing the opposite too. So I get that. So Rob, why high performance? Why? Actually, I want to touch on that resilience just a little bit more. Okay. Because there's just so much change happening right now. Everywhere, mostly between our countries. How can people start building resilience in the next 5 minutes? No, I'm serious about this, because we talk about, all these big goals of building resilience and building trust, but really that first step, that first baby step needs to happen quickly, or we're not going to continue doing it. So do you have any sort of advice for people of something that they could do or feel in the next 5 minutes to get that ball rolling?
Breathe.
Mm-hmm.
So resilience, in a sense, resilience is kind of I think it's a misnomer, right? Mm-hmm. We talk about how to build resilience. And it's like, okay, then, do a bunch of really hard and really terrifying things, right? But you're not really building it. You're just learning how to subsist. right?
Yeah.
But ultimately, when we start looking outside of what's happening around us and start turning inwards is when we're actually the most resilient. And so I had a conversation with one of the folks I went to college with the other day, and he works in academia. And he's talking about how like the administration's going to take away funding and they want to like get rid of research. And of course, I'm not really into the whole politics thing, so I don't know specifically what's going on, but it's that he was like, I feel out of control. I never know what's going to happen, like all these things. And it's like, that's the reason to go here, because you cannot control who and what is going to happen in the world, but you can control one is how you show up in that space, and then also how you and what you focus on as well, right? And so for me, just Laura, like you, it's like I struggle with mental health sometimes. That's why I do not get into politics, because I know it takes me down a path that I don't want to be in. And I know that's somewhat, privileged space to be in, but it's a choice that folks can make.
Aaron, I'm going to loop you in and kind of like push you to the forefront for a moment. I'll give you a warning first.
Okay.
I know Rob and I are definitely not the only ones suffering from mental health issues, resilience, like all of that struggle. Is there a struggle that you've been working on lately? Because things are changing. And since Rob is here talking about high performance and our greatness, and, all of this fun stuff we've been talking about so far this week, I just kind of want to loop you in and be like, how are you struggling? If you have a specific question to be like, help me, Rob, now's your chance.
I don't know about a specific question. I've always struggled with mental health. For me, when I was 12, I was diagnosed with ADHD, manic depressive disorder, and anxiety. And I found that now that I'm older, it was actually me being connected to spirit. And I was hearing things, and my empathic abilities were so tuned in that I was feeling what other people were feeling, and I wasn't understanding what was going on. When I turned 18, I aged out of insurance, so I stopped receiving medication. I wound up going into addiction, and I was masking and doing things that were not healthy for me and making all kinds of terrible decisions. I had 2 scholarships for college. I wound up not going at all to college. And, I was always performing for my parents throughout my life. And now I'm performing for me and my loved ones. And taking the step, even being here today, is bringing me to my higher calling. And I'm just grateful to be here. Yeah. Taking the leap into the unknown has been helping me with my mental health.
Okay, now it's frozen. Into the unknown. Yeah. There's like always a musical in my head.
That's spirit or your guides, just so you know.
I have been learning about spirit guides. Rob, do you have any sort of spiritual beliefs that tie into your healing journey? We'll just go there.
So this is something I'm still trying to figure that stuff out, but I definitely have seen and experienced how being in alignment opens up synchronicities. Now, I'm not I'm still learning about that kind of stuff, but I definitely do. And it's not just me. Like, I've experienced it. My clients have experienced it. It's wild how, as you start stripping away that performative or some of those performative parts, that things happen that we cannot explain.
Mm.
And I think that's the part is like, it takes that what Aaron, you just said, right, is stepping into the unknown. And it feels incredibly scary. And it feels like, I always liken it to like, I was actually literally before this, I was talking to a world record skydiver, and she's done 17,000 jumps. Her name's Melanie Curtis.
Wow.
And it's like you're standing at the doorway of that plane at 5,000 feet or however high they go.
I don't know.
And it's like, you got to step out of that plane. But you don't know if the parachute's going to work, if it's not, if the wind's going to blow, if you're going to hit a bird. Like, there's so much that you don't know. But taking that step out, as much as that takes an incredible amount of courage, you'll actually find that the parachute works and it'll guide you where you need to go.
Courage has been my word for the year. Because, it's like I used to be a super high performer. And then mental health and attempted suicide, like all of that stuff happens. And so I was describing yesterday how I felt like a 10% stupid version of myself for about the last decade. And in my head, there's nothing I can do really to make that outward version of me more like the inward version of me. And so I've been kind of going through my identity, working on why I'm high performing and why I have worthiness issues, and all of that healing journey from the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's more like, okay, how do I lean into that courage? Do I lean into that potential? So I'm going to ask you, Rob, what is something that you would love to have more courage to say or do or to be this year, so we can see where Rob is thinking of going? For
me, the biggest thing that I'm working on is actually asking for help. Not in the sense of my mental health, because I had to learn how to do that, right? But it's more on the business side. And I guess nobody here knows, but in December I left a coaching firm, and now I'm officially on my own, and I have a book that's coming out hopefully in September. But all of that is building. And so, yeah, like I'm really tapping into the folks that I know to see, hey, are they looking for coaching? Or are they looking for keynote speaking? Because that's ultimately how I'm going to eventually build a business.
Yep. Do you know what your book is going to be called, or are you still working on the title?
The title right now is Antidote for the Asshole Boss. And
I love that title. So good.
Great.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it talks about the 6 archetypes of bad bosses. And then it talks also about how do we get in our own psychology and learn that, we all have these parts of us that do act in these bad boss ways, whether it's against ourselves or that pushes us to do it outwardly. And so it's more than just a book about bad bossery. It's also a journey on how we can become our true selves.
Ooh, what does your true self mean to you?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's where I pull from internal family systems. And so in internal family systems, basically there's the self, which is us.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have parts of us that are, and people can think of this like Inside Out, where the girl is sitting at the control panel and there's the little characters that are driving her in different moments.
Yeah.
Or you can think of it like the devil and angel on your shoulders that we've seen in countless movies.
Mm-hmm.
But it's basically a version of that, right? And there are parts that are hurt child parts.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are parts that are designed to protect those hurt child parts.
Okay.
And often the behaviors that we exhibit the most are those protection parts. And so as high achievers, right, it's like we felt not good enough in some moment when we were a kid. And then a part was created saying, Rob, you know what? If you get an A on that math test, you can not feel like you're not good enough.
Mm.
And then people are 45 and they're running a team of 100 people. And then they're, someone on their team sends an email to their client and there's a mistake in it. And the client writes back like, what is going on? You broke something. And then now I'm yelling at my person on my team because ultimately I feel like I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
But if we can heal that child part, then that bad boss behavior goes away.
I like that link there of it feels like we are responsible and as the boss, right? And there's probably some aspect that is, but at the same time, we cannot control every aspect of every other human being around us, no matter how hard we try sometimes. But it really is having that understanding of this is about me right now, not about them. Stop. What's the word I'm looking for? I guess I'll use the word imparting my emotions and beliefs on somebody else right now. That can be difficult.
Ultimately, and this is where in internal family systems, they talk about anything that makes you frustrated or angry or sad. These are trailheads where we need to become curious in why I am triggered in this moment, or what is the part of me that's making me feel this way. And I always talk about this in terms of traffic, right? Like we're at a stoplight, we're behind another car. Light turns green, and the person in front of us, they don't go. They're on their phone, they're changing the music, like whatever that is, right? But almost all of us start yelling, or we're getting mad, or we're frustrated, right? And it's like, in the big scheme of the world, if that person took 1 minute, which would be an absolutely just beyond comprehensible amount of time, right? Like it would never ever be that long.
Yeah.
Nothing really changes for us, right? Like if I'm late for a meeting, I'm still late. It's just like 1 minute difference. Like nobody really cares. If I'm like really nothing changes in our lives. But yet we would feel this massive amount of something, right? Like I know I'd get frustrated, right? But it's like, what's that part of us that is the part that's frustrated? Is it that, it feels like we're unseen, we're not loved, we're not accepted, we're not blah, blah, whatever that is? It's starting to dig into that, which is going to give us the perspective where we can start understanding and basically healing and changing from that.
What I'm hearing is that, just like me, you love self-awareness questions. Just a little.
Well, I mean, self-awareness is the window, right?
It really
And Dr. Tasha Eurich talks about how 95% of people think they're self-aware when only 12 to 15% of people actually are. And right, so 80% of people are walking around going, I know my experience, but have no clue at all.
Yep. Now, I've had many people tell me you were very self-aware, and yet in my head I'm like, but there's still so much I'm not aware of. And like a little bit of that imposter syndrome creeps in of like, okay, if I know 20% of my awareness, and yet let's just say, I'm making numbers up here, the general population is around 10% of their awareness, then in my awareness of the 20%, I'm also aware of the other 80% I don't know. And so it makes me feel like I'm very unaware.
So the question for you, Laura, is
Yeah.
What is the judgment around your own awareness telling you?
It's very much those perfection tendencies from when I was a kid. I remember getting like a 98 on a test and crying my eyes out because I didn't make 100. Like right up until high school, it was this bad. Almost every test, yeah, I would just cry.
Yeah.
And then I thought about it for a while. I'm like, why? Why am I so upset? And most of the time it's because I would make a stupid mistake or a silly mistake or just I wasn't being present. It's not because I didn't know. Because in those times where I legitimately didn't know, I wasn't hard on myself. I was only hard on myself when I was in the right mind. I knew the answer. Just in that moment, I didn't know the answer. So now it was like beat up on myself. Yeah. So I have a little more grace. I'm practicing the grace as a teenager and as an adult.
Yeah. That's the for me, it's the unlock is looking at those parts of us that are incredibly or can be incredibly mean, right? Internally for sure, and sometimes externally as well. But looking at them with compassion because they're trying to help us for some reason. And the big part of it is that they don't know the full story. And so I always talk about it in this way, right? And it's like, imagine, we're a kid, right? We're 5 years old and we're playing with our toys on the ground, and our older brother or sister comes in, and our mom's in the kitchen, and the older brother or sister goes, "Hey, Mom, I got an A on my math test." And your mom goes, "Amazing. I'm so proud of you. I love you." Totally normal. Nobody did anything wrong, right? This is like, I mean, your mom responded exactly how she should. Your older brother or sister, again, same thing. But maybe in that moment, it's like, whoop, into your mind. I have to do well in this moment, right? On my math test, but ultimately everything in order for my mom to love and be proud of me.
Yep.
And then now I'm 50 years old and I'm using that belief when I'm running my own business or I'm whatever I'm doing. But that's the part for parents out there, I don't want you to get scared. I don't want you to be like, oh my God, I can't do anything now because even if I do things that are good, like what happens, okay, don't worry about this, right? But that's the part about folks needing to turn inwards, especially when we have these things that are triggering us. Like Laura, like it's like, oh, I didn't say the right thing on this podcast, or I didn't, I don't know, whatever that is, right? It's like your brain will naturally help you find these moments as part of, and I know you know this because you've done the work, but it's like, that's where you can repair and heal and transform.
Yep. Okay. Sorry. I was like just making sure people know they can hang out in the background. Our next guest is a little early. So, yeah, the work that I've done when I was a kid, that my brother would kind of do stuff like that. He was really smart as well. And I would see those things. But at the same time, it felt, whether this was true or not, doesn't matter. This is my belief about what had happened. It felt unsafe to not have that perfectionism, to not try your very, very best, to appease everybody else around you so that they wouldn't get mad and there wouldn't be fighting and danger and, all of that stuff to a kid. And so in my mind, it was like, okay, we have to be perfect so that we can be safe. Not so that I could be loved. Like that was just a whole other level. It was just, okay, safety. Safety first. sometimes from my brother, who would literally sit on me and pull my toes until they cracked. Like it drove me crazy. Because as soon as you said, your brother's going up to your mom, I was like, oh no, is this happening again? And then I realized that's actually something I'm afraid of that's probably still playing a role in my adult life right now.
Totally. Yeah.
Totally. So Rob, I want to shift just a little bit into some of the ways that you love to share your message. So obviously you love to talk. Are you a speaker? I see the podcast mic there.
Yeah. I mean, I've been podcasting for, I guess, 5 years now. I guess the podcast I'm running right now actually is I'm interviewing other MIT 2010s because we're leading up for the 15-year reunion that's coming out in June.
Yeah.
So that's been a lot of fun. I'm not sure if folks want to listen to it, but if they do, it's called the Infinite and Beyond Show. Okay. But yeah, I mean, the big thing that I'm doing is I'm doing keynotes this year. So I have two big ones. One is called the High Performance Leadership Secrets of Olympic Gold Medalists. And then the other one is the Destructive Six. And so this is so the first one, of course, is leadership and some power and influence strategies on how we can achieve our goals through leadership. And then the second one, the Destructive Six, is about how do we unlearn some of these bad boss behaviors so we can accelerate our leadership. And it's unique because often, I'm sure you've heard this a lot, right? Is leadership folks want to tell you how to get better.
Yeah.
And it's a long journey of self-awareness and improvement and all these things. But if we want to shorten that journey, learning what not to do is much faster and easier.
It depends. Do I know a lot about the area, or do I know somebody who's been through it and just can tell me all the do not do this? That's what the older brother is for, right? Don't do this, mom will get mad at you. Don't do that, mom will get mad at you. Don't do that, dad will get mad at you. Okay. You should probably try this. I don't know. Yeah. So you speak, you podcast. You did mention that you were writing a book.
The book's already written. Right now we're pitching it to publishers.
Oh, that's the phase that you're in. Okay. Good. Solo book, I'm assuming?
Yeah. So if folks want to check that out, if you go to robkalwarowsky.com/book, you can just punch in your email and we'll give you the first 2 chapters for free.
Oh, nice. Because I did have a couple bad bosses, but then at the same time, some of the same companies, I had some really great bosses.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then to have, one of each end of the spectrum in the same company, you're like, oh, so it's not the company. It really is the person. It might not be the policies. It can really be just the personality. So I'm glad that you have that book coming out. So you've got speaking, we've got writing, we've got podcasting. Awesome. I also love to ask people, do you have other ways that you're sharing your message? Some people mentioned like singing, dancing, artwork. We just want to kind of create this huge list to say, these are not the only 3. You could do it countless ways.
No, I don't sing or do art. That's very much my wife's. That's what she does. I'm more of a speaker. The writing was a big leap for me, but we got that done too.
Oh, that means we need to focus there for a second. Okay, we do have about 5 more minutes, but I need to know this. Why was writing a big jump for you? Because I like to see what people choose because it's aligned with who they are, not just because the world tells them they're supposed to do it.
Yeah. For me, I mean, writing, I don't like writing particularly, but I wanted to formulate all of my thoughts into a book. And part of it was it can be a little more structured. You can go a little deeper, obviously, than a than a 45-minute keynote.
Yeah.
And it's another avenue for folks to connect into the message, which is outside of, just seeing me on a stage or hearing me on a podcast. And so, yeah, that's why I went for it. And it was actually one of my goals for 2024 to do that and kind of like push my edges to continue on my own journey.
So what helped you write, since it's not really something that comes easy for you?
Yeah, I mean, I hired editors and a ghostwriter, and we worked through a lot of it together. Yeah.
Oh, good. Because I want to highlight that to people, that you don't have to write and do everything of your book. There are professionals, just as you said, that can help you through every step of that.
Yeah, that's like one of the biggest things I've learned on my journey from, like in healing, but also just in growth as like a coach and a speaker and an author, is hire out the stuff you don't want to do, right? Or that you're not good at, right? And it's like, I have an accountant, and I know everybody who has a business has one, right? But it's like, you don't need to, like, I had this belief from childhood. It's like, well, why don't you save $100 and do your own? Like, my dad used to do taxes for like the entire family. I mean, he had a finance, like that was probably his thing. Yeah. But it's like, I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And so, yeah, you have an accountant. And then it was like, when I was learning how to speak, I was like, I know I'm not doing everything great. So I'm going to hire a speaker coach who's going to help me like put a talk together, learn how to be on stage. And it made it far better than I would have done myself. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the part, is like, as an athlete, you think back and you're like, I mean, I had coaches for swimming. I had coaches for water polo. It's like, why wouldn't I have this in real life? And so now I think, one is, coaches can help you in specific areas, but also you can just hire out experts, right? So like, I'm not super great at marketing. I hired a marketing person, right? Like, these are things that people do, that one is, it'll help you clear time for you to be in your zone of genius. And then the other side of it is like, it removes things off your plate that make you feel stressed out or not good enough, or all those things.
So we have a couple minutes left, and I want to make sure that we know where to find you and what your favorite way to communicate is.
Yeah, best for me, just go to robkalwarowsky.com so you can find out more on my coaching, on my speaking. You can book a call with me on there. It's all good. Or you can find me on LinkedIn, the same thing. Best way to connect with me from a social media perspective is LinkedIn. And yeah, you can interact with me, like you can DM me, you can comment on my posts, or you can go to my website and book a call.
Awesome. I also like to hold space at the end, just in case there's anything on your head or in your heart that you just need to share. So if there was something that you just needed people to take away from this conversation today, what might that be?
No, I just want to say thank you for having me, and folks out there, like, if you're feeling that any part of that connected with you, where you felt, hey, like, I do feel these moments of frustration, or I feel these moments of whatever that is for you, right? And if you're listening, you can send me an email, rob@robkalwarowsky.com, and I'll send you a 3-minute meditation track or breathing track where you can start to connect into that. And that'll be, obviously, it's for free. So yeah, feel free to hit me up and just say that you heard me on Blue Talks.
Aw, that sounds nice. I want to take this moment to just say thank you so much. And I'll call this the official ending of the main interview. But what I like to do with the few minutes that we have afterwards is just kind of have a chat, do a little recap. So I'm going to ask you first, Rob. We'll go around. What was something that stood out to you during our conversation today? I know I put you on the spot. I'm going to have to pull my fuzzy blanket up. Keep it
there. I think what stood out was your vulnerability, and I really appreciated it.
welcome.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to practice what you preach, right? So if I keep telling people, you got to open up, be vulnerable, talk about emotions, I got to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Rob. What about you, Erin? What is something that stood out to you during this conversation?
Rob talking about asking for help. I've been one to take it all on and do everything myself. And I even have a talk coming up in June, and I've been kind of nervous about it. And now I'm like, oh, maybe I need a speaking coach to help me. So being not stubborn about things and being able to receive. So yeah, thank you for that.
Mine kind of ties into that too, though. It's like the asking for help. As soon as you said it, I was like, ugh, I'm still doing it. But I used to be like the hyper independent.
Yep, totally.
Growing up, it's like you do not ask for help. You do everything yourself. And part of it was growing up poor, where you just didn't have the money to hire somebody to help you. And so you had to figure it out. But then the other side of that was my mom being super proud of the fact that she was independent, because she didn't have that as a child. So then I grew up thinking that this is the pride and joy of all the accomplishments, right? Only to be in a space where I was in an accident and I needed to ask for help. Otherwise, I couldn't make it through the day.
Yeah.
And I remember how hard that was to say out loud in my interview with my lawyer. And then I said right on tape, I was like, hold on, I need to say this again. I need help. And it was that moment. And again, we're talking about big moments. That's one of those moments that stick out in my life to be like, look, you can't be here again. You have to start asking for help.
Yeah.
So thank you for these wonderful moments, Rob.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Oh, it was so good. Oh, we have about 60 seconds. So was there anything else you wanted to share or highlight?
No, that's perfect. Erin, yeah, if you want help with your talk or anything, let me know. I can totally help you with that too.
Oh, I appreciate that so much. I actually was going to reach out to you because I know someone that has systems to help you with your business.
Okay. Yeah. Send yeah, let me know.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Awesome.
I'm going to highlight that part too. You were saying that you're not so much of a writer and you were hiring people to help you. I'm just thinking about how everything's shifting with social media right now because of countless things going on. And many people are just like switching their main social media things. And so they're trying to refigure out, how am I going to show up on this other platform versus a platform I was using before? What are those experts that can help you in those areas instead of us doing it all ourselves? And we could do it from that place of joy, from that place that actually lights us up versus the world telling us this is how it should be done, because things are switching.
So, or I guess, which platform are you looking for help with?
Oh, there's a lot of people right now that I'm hearing that are actually not being on Facebook anymore.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who used to be on LinkedIn who are like, well, this isn't what I wanted. I'm going to switch to Facebook. And I'm like, why is everybody jumping ship to go? I'm like, they're just shifting.
Yeah.
And like, to me, I'm just going to stay on the ones that I love. But I am planning on being on LinkedIn more because I've always wanted to. I've always been a business to business person.
Totally. Yeah.
So that's what I'm up to. Thank
Yeah,
you, Rob.
cool.
Thank you
both.
And I'm loving your shirt.
Thank you.
I've been looking at it the whole time. So thank you again. We will connect afterwards, and I'm pretty sure Erin will connect with you as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Awesome. That'd be amazing.
Have a great day, Rob.
Talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you.
So our next guest is behind the scenes, but she said she was just going to switch something and then be right back. So Susan, if you're ready to join us, give me a thumbs up. Yay. Hi, Susan.
Hi.
Ooh, okay. I have to mention the infinity scarf right now because it's like, love me.
I know. A lot
Did
of
you
energy.
make it?
Pardon?
Did you make it?
No, my dog's grandmother did.
Your dog's grandmother?
She's from Cuba. Way cool.
Adorable.
Yeah.
It's like,
Totally
wait,
awesome.
a dog made it? And I was like, no.
No,
Okay,
Grandma
human.
made it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Orpha was in Cuba when Castro took over. The stories are amazing. You should get her on this. That'd be great.
I will talk to anyone about anything. Like,
That's awesome. Perfect.
yeah. Okay, so how I love to start off these conversations is by just shaking up your thoughts a little bit. And if you don't mind playing with me, I would love to ask you.
Okay.
Okay, so if you could have other people describe you in just 3 words, I know that's hard. What would you love those 3 words to be?
What I would want them to be.
Want them to be, yes.
Okay.
It's slightly different.
Yeah, that is. Caught me on that one. What would they say? What would I want them to say?
No, what you want them to say.
Yeah. I think that the one that jumped to mind was remarkable, and I would follow that quickly with someone who cares passionately about doing good and helping others to do good. So remarkable, maybe doing good. It's more than just compassion. There's tons of people that are really compassionate, but they gotta, live it out, do it. Just do it. Come on, Hey, that'd be a good slogan. And then maybe kind of boundless energy, or just like Energizer Bunny kind of stuff. Just keeps going and going and going. Okay, this bugs me. I got to raise my laptop. It's too low. Sorry, forgot to do that.
I'll cough it up for a moment. Aaron, are you ready? Just so you know, Aaron, you don't actually have to leave everything. I could just remove you from stage. It's fine. Oh. I was like, she disappeared, completely disappeared.
I'm sorry.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
So how do I do that real quick?
Oh, I can put you in the backstage. That's fine.
Okay. I'll let you know then.
Okay.
So sorry.
No worries.
Bye, Aaron.
She'll just hang out backstage. That's what it's for. So are you done adjusting your camera? You feel better now?
Yeah, I was looking down at you. Yeah.
Okay. And then I will let her know. Just chat in here when you want to rejoin. Oh, okay.
Okay. So you didn't say anything about my orange hair.
Okay. What's with the one single patch of the orange hair, Susan?
I'm so glad you asked. It's a great conversation starter. It's from church camp in June. Nobody told me the Kool-Aid was permanent.
Oh,
Kool-Aid.
No. Oh, no.
Really?
And then I thought about that as what children's drink company makes permanent dye, puts permanent in. But I think that the deal is you got to make it super hot. So a packet of Kool-Aid in a half a cup of water and get it really, really hot. I microwaved mine for 2 minutes. So it was boiling a lot. And then you dunk your hair in it. And it's permanent. We were the orange color group at church camp.
And just that one section?
Well, it's growing out. It used to be up here. And then I actually did the bottom too. But I didn't reheat it. Bad choice. It turned during camp. It turned into this baby poop diarrhea brown. Not a good way. So as soon as I got off the bus from camp, I went to Great Clips and got the bottom chopped off. But our daughter is getting married in August, so I keep pulling on it to try to get it to grow faster, or I'm going to have this really funky haircut, asymmetrical, shave this side of my head kind of thing. We'll see.
What you do is you just take that one section of hair that has the orange, and you can braid it or do something cute and
fun.
Maybe wrap some
glitter
floss,
around
it like they used to in the 90s.
So fun. I'm hair dyslexic, like my poor daughter. You know how moms do cute things. All I could do is put her up in a ponytail. Actually, 2 of them. She just looked like a antenna Martian for her first few years. That was okay.
No, it's all
That's
good.
character.
That's character.
Yeah.
So then Those 3 words that you said, remarkable, doing good, or compassionate, and I put plus beside it because that matters.
Yeah.
And then the boundless energy.
Yeah.
What does the energy behind those words, and what do those words, how do they relate to the core message that you have for people?
I think it kind of goes back to knowing yourself. And if you know yourself well enough, then you can understand your learning style and what gives you energy and what fills you up, and how you can live out those attributes instead of just saying them or put them on a Facebook post or adding them to your LinkedIn profile. They actually mean something because people see that in you and are able to identify, oh yeah, of course she's remarkable. She hiked almost 2,200 miles. Who does that, let alone an old lady? Come on. It's just, it wouldn't sound false. It wouldn't be, oh yeah, she's not that remarkable. She only hiked 2,200 miles. It was only a 35-pound backpack. It was okay.
But did you walk 500 miles and then walk 500 more just to be the man who walked 500,000 more?
I did. And then I walked 500 more, and then I threw another 200 in just for good measure. Come on. The thing that's a bite though about the trail is you have to walk both at the beginning and the end, like extra mileage just to get to the start. Like at the beginning, we started up north and you walked 4 extra miles. It wasn't just a walk in the woods like that, Paul Newman movie. No, it was a 4-mile climb up a mountain. So you could be to the top of the mountain and say, I'm starting. Okay, now I get to go back down. Yeah, now I get to go back down 4 miles, but it's scarier going down because you see I'm going to fall down. I'm not going to fall up, right? So
I fall up all the time.
Yeah. Well, you see that 9 stitches, day 18. You can't really see it, but 10 staples, 10 times top of your head.
I want to come back. I want to come back to the walking, and I want to come back to the only being able to do ponytails, because I want to know, what is it that you do? You started talking about learning styles and boundless energy. Yeah. I'm assuming that's a part of your core message, but what is your message and what is it that you do?
What I do is look for opportunities to help people. I think, I'm not describing a job. I'm not describing what I do in my spare time. This is who I am. And it translates into business. Of course it does, because if you're authentic and you're looking for opportunities to help people, it happens all the time. It happens at work. It happens, having coffee with a gal this morning. It's, I talk about it in church Bible study. It's there. It's pervasive. You can't separate it from yourself. It's not like a box, especially being a woman, men are from Mars and women are from Venus, or however that goes. Yeah. I can't take that part and put it up on the shelf in a box. It is me. It's not in me. It is me. And so at work, we run a warehousing, a logistics company, kind of full circle in my career. I was 15 years with Apple, and my first job with Apple was in a warehouse, leading a team of people. And, I didn't know anything about warehousing, but that philosophy, lazy leader, man, I hit the pot of gold with my boss, my first boss at Apple. It was easier to hire me than to read through the stack of paper resumes that had been mailed to him. Tells you how long ago I worked at Apple, Yeah. So, but just look for opportunities, not only to help in a logistics company, but as I'm giving these presentations, helping people to understand. And I use the platform of the Appalachian Trail hike that my daughter and I did for Parkinson's as a way to explain this, because it's kind of a hard concept. And, we were out on trail 5.5 months. I had a lot of time to think about it. And
absolutely.
Yeah. And, you get kind of tired of, talking to your daughter, or getting yelled at by your daughter. Come on, pick it up, Mom, let's go. Quit falling down. Okay, I'll try, and the lessons that I learned on the trail, I break down into what are the tools you need? You just don't go to the north central Maine and decide to walk 2,200 miles in an afternoon. You just, you plan for it. You get the right tools. And then, those tools, in leadership, what tools do you need to be a good leader? But how good are those tools if you haven't been trained on it? You don't know how to use them. Case in point on that, AI, great tool. If you don't have a clue what you're doing, get some training on it, or ask somebody, learn from others' mistakes, those kind of things. Get training so you know how to use these amazing tools that are available to us. And then the third thing is team. Who does anything in a vacuum? Even the most introverted, programmer sitting in the back room of a basement has somebody else on his team. There's somebody that has to test the work, try the work, see if it's a good user interface. You can't just write brilliant code and, turn it over to the person that asked you to write brilliant code. You need a team to be successful. And it comes in all different shapes and sizes. And it might be the last person you think of, gee, that janitor that is cleaning that back room in the basement. Hey, what do you think about this? Should I do it this way or this way? Having conversations with people, listening to people, listening to the nonverbals. Sometimes what's not said is more powerful than what is said, and being able to pick up on those cues and build a team that's diverse, lots of different experiences, lots of different ages. Don't write people off in different spectrums, or age categories or whatever. There's so much learning that comes from having a really diverse team, that knows how to communicate, that's relational, that's striving for the same goal. All those kind of things are really important, especially, well, I don't know if it's especially leadership, but certainly in leadership, it happens in a lot of disciplines. My lessons that I learned on the trail, a better way to put it would be that I was taught on the trail, that I had the eyes and ears and heart to hear on the trail, and apply. Those work in so many different disciplines. I mean, I've really yet run across something I'm trying to communicate or educate somebody on that can't benefit from talking about tools, training, and team. It's pretty powerful. And that what I learned on the trail that helped us achieve our goals helps others achieve their goals, whatever those might be. It's really powerful the way some things that are so different, have nothing to do with each other, you think really are very powerful and have a lot to do with each other.
Okay, I want to know what you learned on the trail.
Wow.
How many hours do you have?
Yeah, exactly. You read my mind. Great. You can read the nonverbals. It's wow. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about the importance of family. I learned a lot about, and not only because, my daughter was there, but also, we were doing it in honor of my husband who has Parkinson's. We did it to raise money for Parkinson's. We learned the value of the support of Michael J. Fox Foundation cheering us on. Learned the value of community. It's not just us that had the goal. There was literally thousands of people that were supporting us, donating, picking our wet, soggy butts up off the trail and giving us a dry bed, a shower. What do you mean hot water? What the flip is that?
Good luck.
Laundry.
Rain, wet, yeah.
Yeah.
No, get it out.
Conditioner for your hair. I mean, not that my hair, needs it, but, it just things that you take for granted are just so precious. And family led that list. Faith led that list. You realize what you have when you miss it, when you don't have it anymore for a short while. The power of our son and daughter-in-law supporting my husband. He didn't kill the dog while we were gone. That's a win. That's a huge win. He didn't die himself. I didn't die. That was one of our goals. Don't die.
Don't die.
Don't die. Yeah. Came close, but no, Didn't I?
Do you mind me asking about that?
Well, 2 ER worthy head injuries led that list, and also we had my daughter. Well, this is us together, my daughter and I. Case of COVID, root canal, bridesmaid in a wedding, just on and on and on. Over 40 strangers, never met them before. Didn't meet them until they picked us up at a trail crossing. And sure, we'll come to your house. We don't know you, but you're a nice person. You reached out to us. You told us that third hurricane was bearing down on us and it was going to be a bad one, and we really got to get off trail. And you told us where to meet you and what your car looked like, and how far we were to your house, and you get us back on trail the following morning, whatever time we wanted to get going.
Yeah.
People that watched our videos, 96 videos, including one that's the whole trail in less than an hour. So what took us 154 days, you can watch in 56 minutes. So,
Wow.
so they reached out to us and just, were watching out for us, helping us. When I had IT band issues about the last third of the trail, offering to pick up my backpack or take some weight out so I could, still have the emergency gear, but, it could lighten my load, and it'd be, less pressure, less poundage on my knees and hips as we were going up and down and up and down and up and down.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So what part of, I know your hubby has something to do with it too, but I want to also bring it into that idea of leadership and teams and tools and all of those things that you learned on the trail.
Yeah.
What inspired you to do the hike and start that self-awareness inner monologue or inner book by this point of the leadership tools?
Well, I mean, a lot of people live with stuff that's bigger than they are, and you don't get a choice of some of the things that the cards you're dealt. You get what you get, and don't throw a fit. I mean, if you can't do anything about it, then do something for it or around it or for the people that are also affected. So the whole thing with Parkinson's, my husband was diagnosed early on, probably not technically early onset. I think that's below 50, but I'm not sure on that. He was diagnosed like when he was 51, lived with it fine for, decade plus. And then, but it's a degenerative disease. There's not a cure right now. Will we see one in our lifetime? Maybe, hopefully, but is it too late for him? Has the damage been done? Is there a way to reverse the damage? There's all this stuff we don't know. So it was actually our daughter's idea to do the trail. She's an uber athlete, 2 D1 sports in college. 6 foot tall. I'm about 5'4" on a good day. So you can imagine our strides. I think I did that means I probably did at least a third more steps than she did on the trail, but that was okay. I wanted all the steps I could get because I use an app called Charity Miles that gives you credit for your walking, and you can do it using GPS, but that kind of eats the battery, and on the trail there's not a lot of current bushes to plug into. So so I turned the GPS off. It was in airplane mode all the time, but you can integrate Apple Health with this app called Charity Miles, and you can generate funds for donations to an organization of your choice that they have in the app, and it's an easy way to donate just by walking around. And it motivates me to get my mileage in. Come on, step it up. I'm not on the trail anymore. Got to stay active. Use it or lose it, baby. Come on.
Yeah.
So,
Yes. My life has been very true with that. I couldn't walk for almost a month. April of last year.
Oh.
Yeah. So now getting back into things ever since, it's been, okay, what can I do that's not going to put me back there?
Yeah.
Because that is never happening again.
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. That everyone's got their own stuff. For me, if I don't stay active, if I don't walk a decent amount of mileage a day, my right side's out of whack. So my knees, my hip, and my glute on the right side is just not happy with me at all. So, keep active, keep moving, and that works a whole lot better. So, yep.
You've also inspired me that I think if I plan another event, because I've always wanted to do retreats. I love retreats, but then of course everybody's doing retreats. But I do like that idea. I love hiking. Oh my God, I love hiking. If we could do some sort of hiking retreat, maybe not for 156 days or whatever it was that you did. That's a little much for me.
Yeah.
But maybe like 10 days.
Yeah.
7 days.
Yeah.
And then take other people who want to do, because I also love walking meetings. So it would be like the group is having walking conversations on certain topics, not to the point of like everybody crashing and burning and getting their head hit. All of that.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that.
No, well, don't do that.
Yeah.
But just to the point where you're understanding that when you push yourself physically, it does help mentally. And when you push yourself mentally, it does help physically. And then the spirituality of all of that.
Yes. Yeah.
So also today we've been kind of taking in that conversation of spirituality. What did you find spiritually, or I guess in your belief systems, your soul, whatever word you want to use around that? How did you find that you shifted in that area of your life?
Gosh. Well, first of all, I draw so much energy from the outdoors. I mean, I think I've been that. Maybe it's because I grew up on a farm, so that's just like what you did, you know. And but I've always been an outdoors person, you know. And it's like, okay, it was I think 10 below this morning when we woke up, and you know, in Minnesota here, and it's like, at least there's no wind yet. It's supposed to get up to like 0 by I think 3 o'clock. I think it hits 0 and then it goes right back down. But so it's going to be a little bit hard for me to get the dog out walking today. We'll see. But so that was kind of the first thing, is that, you know, the world is right when you're in God's creation. There's just no way you can't believe in God and see what he created and just like, oh no, this just happened. This was, you know, through years and years and years of just evolution. Maybe, but still, what are the odds of that? I heard one time, and I don't do numbers, but it was like a ridiculous odds that our world would be the way it is today without some divine plan, you know, for that. So that's one thing. There's also no way I could have walked the trail and not experienced the voice of God. I mean, and God is so polite and so gentle and so caring. He doesn't interrupt you. He doesn't thump you upside the head. He speaks, right, in a still, small voice. So you have to lean in to hear what he's saying. You have to, I think I heard something there. Wait, could you say it again? Maybe not. Pay attention next time. You know, walk a few more 100 miles, then I'll talk to you again. We'll see how that goes. You know, that kind of stuff. But my favorite picture from the trail is we're sitting on a dock by a cute, adorable cabin that took us, if I'm remembering right, it was 4 miles off trail. So that means 4 miles off and then 4 miles back to get back on the trail. And our daughter's a purist. She wouldn't take a shortcut. Sometimes if you know, if the trail goes this way and you go off the trail 4 miles, you can just go back on the trail 4 miles that way. It's like a giant triangle, right? No, she had to go back the 4 miles, then down the trail. Otherwise you would have skipped that whole section of trail. So it was at least very minimum eight miles, you know, off trail, which our average was 14 and a half miles a day. So 8 miles is a big deal, right? Yeah. Toward the end, with the hurricanes chasing us, we had, I think the last week, I think we did close to a marathon a day. You know, and this isn't just in your running shoes and little cutoff running shorts. No, this is like fully geared up and carrying everything you need. Not what you want, only what you need, especially toward the end. So anyway, this picture that I love is us sitting on this dock on a mountain lake. You don't see any sign of humanity except for the dock, which is built, and us two human beings sitting there. And our backs are to the camera, and we've got our arms around our knees, and we're kind of, you know, sort of looking toward or angled toward each other, talking. And the mountain lake is totally still.
Mhm.
I mean, how can a whole lake be like glass? And the caption I put on that slide is, God speaks in a still small voice. All the distractions of this life, of this day, of this technology, of this fill in the blank is maybe not gone, but it's suppressed.
Yeah.
And to be able to hear the voice of God with that clarity, it was just so powerful. And the miracles God along the trail were totally remarkable. Like, this stuff doesn't happen, This, my favorite one, and my one regret from the trail is on the first injury, 9 stitches, tripped on a root, hit my head on a root. That thunk is a really weird sound when you hit your head that hard. And it was 1:30 in the afternoon, and we hadn't seen anybody all day. It was a gorgeous fall day. Just, it was summer, actually, August. But so I knew it was bad. I screamed, is the only word I can think of, for our daughter to, and she said she never heard me make that sound and hopes to never hear it again. And by the time I sat up, at my side were 2 gentlemen. And the one said to the other, Joe, remember when I fell and hit my head last week? I think I have some of those stereo strips left. Can you look in this pocket in my backpack while I help the lady? What? He's got stereo strips? But wait, there's more. Oh, and the big rectangular bandage that, keeps the blood in, it's waterproof. And, he had one of those too. My regret with this experience wasn't that I hit my head and needed 9 stitches and had to take us off trail. And it was that I didn't ask them to turn around to see the wings on their backs.
Aw.
It was just spectacular. And they helped us up. They were going the other direction. We waved goodbye and we hiked the 3.5 miles to get to a road crossing. We had no cell connection. We had no idea where the closest ER was. Before we even had our thumbs out, before we even had our backpacks off, a car stopped and said, "You gals need some help?" Yeah, I think we got to get to an ER. Do you know where one is? The guy says, "Honey, we go past that hospital on the way home. It's only about an hour and 15 minutes from here, right?" Thumbs up. Good job. Yeah, we'll go there. That's fine. It's an hour and 15 minutes wrong direction, but we don't care.
Aw.
We got to get this stitched up. So it was great. They stopped at a gas station, bought us some snacks, got our fully loaded, full sugar, full caffeine Mountain Dew. We were good. Now when you go in the grocery store and you look at the ingredients, too much sugar. That's, 18 grams, 17 added sugar. That's too much, right? On the trail, are you kidding me? It's only 39 grams of sugar. What? Give me more. Crazy. Your priorities change. Yeah. I did the math time on how many calories was burned. It was like, I can't do that math that high. I don't do numbers, but it's remarkable. It's over like 5,000 a day.
That's what I was going to say. You're probably around the 5,000 a day mark.
Yeah. Like your body can't take in that amount of calories and really process it.
Yeah.
That's why they say men look like prisoners of war and women look like supermodels when they come off the trail. The guys have these long straggly beards. Yeah. And we're just like, we got this.
Oh yeah. We're like, I did all of that.
Buns of steel, baby. Yeah. Now I know what that term means. Oh my gosh.
The buns of steel.
You guys aren't old enough to know buns of steel.
Oh, I do. Suzanne Summers, right?
Jane Fonda.
Oh, Jane Fonda. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's great. Yeah.
So Susan, I want to shift just a little bit into the ways that you've decided to share this message, either of the trail, which I'm assuming there's a book already or a book coming about that.
It's there.
You did say that you also put the videos up on YouTube. And I love that that's a different way to share your message that hasn't been mentioned yet.
Oh, and again, credit goes to our daughter, who's now an ER vet. She was the art director, the videographer, the editor. The editor light. We had a pro bono editor, John Wolf, just an amazing, amazing guy out of Pewaukee, Wisconsin, good friend. And he, pro bono, didn't charge us a penny to edit all those videos and smush them together and add the text tracks and the songs and all this stuff for 96 videos. Just amazing, just so amazing. That was his contribution. He said he felt so blessed to be able to support us in that way. So, but yeah, it was our daughter's idea. She had done more, we know at least 2 marathons that were fundraisers for Parkinson's, because you couldn't get into New York or Chicago without going through a charity. And Michael J. Fox, as a lot of other organizations, buy up bids and then use them as fundraisers for teams across the country. So she did those. She did an Ironman for Parkinson's, and she just decided she wanted to do something bigger, and so let's just do a little walk in the woods. She was set to go with her best friend, her soulmate from undergrad, and Shannon wasn't able to go. And so Mama Bear wasn't going to let Baby Bear go into the woods by herself. And because there are scary things. There are scary things on the trail that you don't want your daughter to do it facing alone. So that is really what started the whole thing. So, and don't regret it at all.
No.
We'd do it again.
Do it again. So you're doing podcasts because obviously you're doing interviews. You have a podcast?
No, I don't have one myself. Though that's really an interesting thought. It was really cool on the trail. Well, let's finish. I mean, not only interviews and stuff, but I've also done workshops for a number of organizations. We have one that's based here in Minnesota called Feed My Starving Children. And I did a staff development workshop for them. If you don't do your job, the consequences, you didn't do your job, do better. Or if you really don't straighten out, you might get fired, whatever. If the staff development team doesn't do their job, children die. So that's a little bit of pressure. They support 64 countries. Last year, it was over 400 million meals that they sent to starving children around the world. Just like gives me shivers just thinking about it. And so I did it the goal, I was asked an organization, what do you want out of this talk? I can tell the story. It's a great story, but what do you want your team to learn out of this? What do I connect it to? I'm a huge dot connector. So not only introducing people like that way, getting these dots to talk to each other, but what's your purpose? What's your goal? What do you want to achieve with this, half hour, 45-minute session, whatever. And so theirs was encouragement, support, this is tough work, there's tough consequences. So to be able to help them with that and give them some peace and some vision to kind of rise up and, it's really easy to get caught down with the details and, get depressed about that or get challenged too much by that. So we did that. I did one at a well-being retreat that was just unbelievable. Like you talk about a hiking retreat, I got to connect you to the group that did this. Kalina Carlisle is an artist when it comes to learning. Like there are so many different learning styles at this well-being retreat. Here's a guided walk in the woods. You go by yourself, take this journal with you. Here's an art project we're going to do. Here's a poetry session we're going to do. Now you're going to go do yoga. Now you're going to go get a massage. Now we're going to have a, boring lecturer that's just going to talk to you, but even for that, we had questions related to what their goals were. And that was, well-being. What is your purpose? How do you refocus your energy on the positive instead of things that maybe haven't gone so well in your life? How do you focus on that? So that was amazing. I've done it for faith groups that it's just so powerful with the number of miracles, like I was talking about, that happened. And a lot of it is being blessed with the opportunity to see those miracles. Don't be caught up in the busy. Don't be caught up in the day-to-day of life, and really be able to see and hear, and engage with others on all these things that are just so positive and so just I don't know, things that don't happen in this normal earthly realm that we're in. And it's, you know, it's so cool to be able to see that stuff. And just this isn't on the trail, but the other day I had to drive my husband's Shelby Mustang, which I hate that car. Its wheels are like wider than my shoulders. It's like death on wheels in the winter in Minnesota. And I had to drive it home, and it had started to snow. Whoa, baby, not a good combo. You know that old country song, Jesus Take the Wheel? I was singing that all the way home. And there's one time, I'm not kidding, I laughed out loud because God just took the wheel, and I didn't end up in the ditch, or I was really worried about driving into the lake, or not driving, but sliding into the lake.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was just like, I mean, thank you, Jesus. I mean, how do you even respond to something like that? It was like unbelievable. And to be able to have those opportunities and share those opportunities with others, you know, to be conscious and aware that this stuff is real and it happens. You know, it's like, that just doesn't happen by itself. There's got to be God guiding that. So cool.
Susan, I want to be mindful of time, and I want to make sure that people know where to find you.
Good. Well, I'm working on my website. I don't have that up yet. I'm sorry. I think the URL is going to be susanottenpresents.com, because I do want to present in a variety of ways. You know, my book. I'd love to do a companion Bible study. Those are in the works. But for now, talks, keynotes, workshops. So my LinkedIn is Susan Otten. I think there are a couple of us out there, but none like me. So there. I do have a Facebook page. I don't go on it all that much. They can reach out to me at Susan@Otten, Otten, associates.com. And that might change, but we'll see. You know, if we get the site up, we should use that domain, but we'll get there.
Yep.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to mention, and maybe, I don't know if you have show notes where you could share, but there's also, we were picked up by the local CBS affiliate in 8 interviews, including when we were off trail with COVID, a couple of times after I hit my head. But then the national CBS News, Saturday and Sunday News picked us up. So I've got a number of URLs, a blog post done by AARP, which it's for more than retired people, they tell me this year, but they have 35 million members, and they did a post on us. Michael J. Fox, of course, did posts on us. All those kind of things, you know, they can find information on us. They can also put comments in the YouTube channel. It's Appalachian Trail for Parkinson's disease, everything all spelled out. I still have to look up how to spell Appalachian. Well, actually, my computer's smart enough now, it remembers. I don't. Stuff. But yeah, I would love anybody that has questions, or, you know, that I can help. Again, going back to helping our business logistics, there's a website for that, indiedogood.com, INDIE, do good. And yeah, if anybody needs help with logistics or any of that stuff, you know, we're in a great part of the state, central to the United States, you know, central to Canada, help people with that. And even if they have a logistics company they love, yay, that's a hard thing to, you know, to do, to find. But, you know, if you have questions, I can help you. I just like helping people. You know?
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think you knew where I was going to ask next, because usually how I end interviews is I ask, you know, if there's something on your head or in your heart that you just need people to take away from this conversation.
Yeah.
What might that be?
Well, look for opportunities to do good. I mean, the person in the grocery checkout line probably has a name tag on. You know, you could, you know, do you get groceries at the same grocery store? Do you see that person more than once? Do you see that person? You know, just a friendly voice, you know, a happy good morning, not how you doing? Fine, how are you? And then get on your phone. You know, there's just so many ways you can make people's day, and it doesn't take time, doesn't even take money. You know, just a smile, How can I pray for you? Do you need help with anything? Do you need a ride somewhere? It's kind of cold out today. Can I drop you off by your apartment? Those kind of things are easy to do, but they mean so much. If you're down or you're depressed, helping others is one of the best ways to get out of that. I mean, it's statistically, scientifically proven helping others helps you. And so it's an easy thing to do. Support our communities, support our world. And you haven't even got me started on sustainability. Oh my gosh. Please
That'll
recycle.
have to be a different interview.
Yeah.
So Susan, just to make sure that wherever this is going next, that we are within the time and we get it all, I do want to take this moment to say thank you so much for being here for this interview. And I will call this an official close for that part of the interview. But Susan, we get to hang out for a few more minutes. And what I love to do in this space, just so that everything else there, it's within the maximum time for wherever it's going next. So I like to take this space just to kind of do a little recap and ask you and Aaron and myself, what was something that stood out to you during our conversation today?
I love the first question that you asked. That still sticks with me. And that's a great conversation starter. And, probably even better than orange hair. It's certainly, I was going to say it doesn't last as long, but it might. That could have real impact for people, And it just seems like, human connection. And I feel very connected with you, Laura, and, Aaron, you've been great to sit in on this and ask good questions, listen to a bit of the one before and, a couple yesterday. And it just, just cool stuff. I still love the way the trail is so extensible and the things that happened on the trail happen in life, maybe in a slightly different way, but if you dissect it, and not even that, don't even have to go that deep. I start out my talk with, what's your mountain? What are you climbing? Okay, maybe it's not like going up and down Mount Everest 16 times, but it's still your mountain. It's still big. It's still there in front of you. And, do you want to do it alone? No, I want to grab a team. Do you want to go do you want to go shopping at REI for 5 days in a row and try to figure out what the heck to get? Or do you want to watch, or do you want to ask people who know? Now we got to go figure out how to use this stuff. Go do a test hike, ask someone to come with, that has done this before. I mean, there's so much about the trail that applies to life. And maybe hiking isn't your thing. Figure out what is your thing, do it more, and then figure out how you can take learnings from that thing that you love, that you enjoy, that fills you up, that gives you energy, that helps others. Take that and apply that learning to other things that aren't so easy for you. That, there's a whole bunch of stuff out there that's hard. Take the things you love and apply that to the hard stuff. And, part of it is a mind shift. Part of it is just awareness. Oh, yeah, what do I like about needlepoint? It's quiet. It's rhythmic. It's organized. It's logical, And you know what? When you look at it holistically from a ways back, it makes this beautiful picture. Versus when you're so close into it, you're missing that beautiful montage. Don't worry about the stitches might not be perfect, that the thread might be twisted. Stand back and take a look, and it's a beautiful work of art, just like we all are.
Thank you, Susan. Okay, Aaron, we have about 30 seconds or so. Share something that stood out to you during this conversation.
Okay, the thing that stood out to me was the synchronicities and how no matter what, when you asked for Jesus to take the wheel, he did. Like whenever you ask your guides or angels that love you to come in and be with you, they always show up. So that's what I got from it.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah.
And I got the message of
you
go
have
back
to
to
ask them. They won't help unless you ask.
Yeah, exactly. So polite. Yeah. It's so good. It's just so good.
So thank you so much again, Susan, for being here and sharing this time with us. Beautiful scarf. cute little orange part in your hair. We will chat soon.
Okay, thanks so much.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Susan.
Bye.
I almost removed you for a minute, Erin, just because like you switched over. I was like, it's fine. It's fine.
I'm glad I'm back in my spot.
It's all good. Paul, whenever you're ready, just give me a thumbs up and I'll bring you to stage with us. I just meant, yeah. I was like physical thumb up. I don't even know if there are little emojis in this one. I don't think so. No. So welcome, Paul.
Thank you. I look forward to this conversation.
Awesome. So I'd love to start every conversation off with a question just to shake up the way people think an interview should be going. Because I want to get to know Paul. Who is Paul behind the business, behind the message, all of that? So if you're ready, I'd love to ask you.
30 plus years ago, I started as a domestic violence counselor.
Ah.
I had a fresh degree from the University of Virginia with counseling education. And after that, and I've had classes for perpetrators of domestic violence for a year or so. And after a while, I realized I'd rather prevent it than treat it after the damage has already been done. And along the way, I became a professional chaplain, hospice chaplain, hospital chaplain, psych hospital chaplain, always looking for what if present would make the difference. That would actually, when I had my domestic violence, one of my domestic violence classes, I said, listen, this is not a DV class. This is your best relationship in your life class. And their listening shifted because they weren't there as a punishment. They were there as an opportunity, which is a very different conversation. And becoming chaplain and, among other things, moved to Tucson, Arizona. I started on marriageandcommunication.com. And in 5 sessions, couples will get what they need to make it to the 50th wedding anniversary. And most recently, with the sum of 5,000 people I've helped so far, I published a book, Marriage and Communication Recipes for Life.
Aww.
It is formatted uniquely in that it's recipes, not chapters. It's 16 recipes and a discussion about love languages and personality types in the intermission. And you don't have to read it from cover to cover. In fact, it probably would be counterproductive. Find a recipe that appeals to you. Do that. It's formatted much like a recipe. There's directions. Could be 1 sentence long. We'll talk about this later, perhaps. But nothing more than 4 or 5 sentences. And then if you want to know more, keep reading. But most people just want to know the recipe. Tell me what to do. 3 out of 4 people are censors in marriage in the Myers-Briggs world. So I don't bore them with the details unless they really want them. So just, to avoid being hung up in you-ishness, you say, tends to. That's a 1-line recipe. Instead of always, every, never, and only, and the damage it does to people's listening, you say, well, we tend to. And listening continues. So that's kind of like a brief overview. The book came out about 2 months ago. And I have realized, among all the networking I've been doing, that I'm a great provider. I can pretty much alter any relationship, maybe with narcissists not included. But I'm not a business person. And I've altered the lives of a couple thousand people by this time, maybe more. And I live in Tucson, Arizona, so I'm in the mountain time zone, which sometimes can be problematical. I have a podcast I'm doing on Thursday, but he's in Australia. So it's a wild ride. And even though I'm a profoundly introverted person, I've so far managed to take care of myself along the way.
I certainly hope so. And I'm not sure if you know, Paul, but many of the world's best speakers are introverts.
Yeah, put me in front of 5,000 people, for 2 or 3 hours, I'm fine. But after that, I kind of wear out.
Yeah. I could definitely tell that you're an introvert. So, Paul, I want to just go back just for a moment.
Sure.
because I want to ask the question that I ask everyone here, because I
Mhm.
want to get to know you.
Mhm.
And so the question is this: if you could have other people describe you in 3 words, what would you love those 3 words to be?
3 words.
Yeah.
Compassionate, committed, and competent.
Compassionate. I can't write that fast. Committed. And sorry, what was the last one?
And competent.
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 Competent. There we go. So how does being compassionate, committed, and competent, how do those words play a role in your work with marriage and communication?
Well, a couple walks in the door out of, you might say, necessity. They have to do
Yeah.
this.
Mhm.
And sometimes one of them doesn't even want to be there, but they come anyways. And one of the distinctions I teach is that most people have a have to life, not a get to life.
Yeah.
So they have to come. They get to return.
Mhm.
Over the course of the first session, which is usually 2 hours long, they will learn and begin to adapt the skills, insights, best practices for marriage that will last 50 years. I give them a 50-year promise because I won't live long enough to make a guarantee. But and some really, I deal with a fair amount of infidelity. Well, I teach them how to possibly obtain forgiveness and restore trust, and we make it work. I know there's just I can rock any relationship pretty much, except maybe narcissists. They're special. And at the end of the first 2-hour session of the 5, they have a light ahead. They can see the light ahead. And I listen profoundly. I don't know. I have lots of things to add about what I do, but the first recipe is going from reacting to responding by using words yes and. What does this do? There are 5, actually now there's actually 6, but the 5 gifts. When you say yes to start off with, you've established a connection. They know they've been heard. You've gone from reacting to responding. And at that moment, your and lets you choose what you say next. You could say, let's talk about our finances. Or you could say, yes, and how about we talk about our finances? One is a very clear invitation. One is kind of a thought. I could talk for this hours, by the way. You could set me up. I can stop. I can keep talking for hours at this point. And yes, yes means you don't have to be a rabbit hole longer than it takes to say yes. You never lose control of your life and your reality as long as you have a yes. If you let someone hijack your reality, you don't know what ditch you're going to wind up in. So they say, Laura, you're an awful person. Now, you could defend yourself or you could explain, which is useless because they're not listening. Or you could say, yes, that would be a good thing for us to talk about. Let's do that. Or this particular political person is the one for our nation. And you rather do anything else, just say, yes, I'd like to know how you got there. Yes, you never take your hands off the steering wheel, so long as you have a yes for the rest of your life. And also, the last tip, I think I lost track of them already.
It's all good.
Someone's angry at you. No. You go, yes. No. Can't you see how angry I am? Yes. Yes. After about a couple, 3 yeses, they stop. It's kind of a fire extinguisher for anger. Doesn't always work, but a yes is a good way to begin. Yes. So I teach them yes first. That's the first thing they learn. Yes, and let's look at that. Yes, and how else can we look at this? Yes, and. So that's the first recipe in my book, and it's where I start. Anyone who calls me up, whether they come to see me or not, they'll get a yes and tutorial before they hang up.
I love that.
Did I answer your question? I hope. I love what I do.
Yeah.
This instead of being, this is a business only, we call it marriage and communication, I call it life. It's a life business.
Yeah.
People come in with less life, they walk out with more life.
No.
I love it. I get up, people call me at 2:00 in the morning, I'll answer. Yes. That's how I use passion and the other things. I was like, I'm just a yes.
Mhm.
In my courses with the couple, I say, a no by itself can distract you, but a no with an and connects you.
Exactly.
No.
Paul, what inspired you? What inspired you to get into this work?
Just hard to imagine. I mean, I could go back to birth if I really wanted to. I mean, I was,
Sure.
my mother was knocked out, and I was bruised. I had a forceps. So one could say from the moment I opened my eyes, I was already disconnected. And she didn't breastfeed. Women in the 1950s they wanted to keep their figure. And I was bottle fed. And I was feeling sick from whatever drug they used to knock her out. So one could say I've been feeling disconnected on some level from the get-go. Now it's almost 75 years ago. But one could actually go, part of it is that you might imagine that introverts may have a hard time feeling connected. When I see a lot of podcasts, what would you say to yourself when you're 20 years old? I said, do the Myers-Briggs personality test and go to 5lovelanguages.com.
Yep.
Had I know what it is to be, what the influence of introvertedness would be, I would just be a lot more accepting. I lived in a commune, different conversation, but I had my own room, and why don't I want to hang out with those people? I just really tortured myself. Like, they're all making hammocks. This is Twin Oaks community. They're all having a time, and I just don't want to be there. And had I had the introvert distinction, it would have been a lot easier on myself.
Yeah.
To make a long story short. So, and of course, along the way, I became a domestic violence counselor. And this connection is what they all are. So that's where yes and comes from.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also become aware that we pretend to prepare our children for adulthood. That's why we said we send you to school so you prepare to be an adult, we tell our children. And somehow they don't teach them relationship or communication skills. Right? It's like complete missing. 4th R, relationships. Because a teenager, let's say in high school, wants nothing more than to get connected to another teenager. And we don't teach them how. We don't give them awareness of their personality types. There's no curriculum for living currently in our school systems. Pretty much anywhere. Worldwide. And one of the advantages of having my recipe book is I can turn most of those into curriculum. Give me one period with students or their teachers or their parents, and yes and is the first thing they learn. So teenagers need not feel obligated to say yes when they really want to say no. Right? They want to be popular. They want to belong. They want to be accepted. They want to be in love because that's what they're supposed to be doing. They're supposed to want to be in love, and their body is reinforcing that hormonically, so to speak. And their friend has a real particularly exciting but stupid idea. Teenagers have a weak relationship between cause and effect.
Mm-hmm.
They can think of great ideas, but they can't anticipate the consequences of doing their great ideas.
Yes.
Your 16-year-old hears this and they don't want to do it. Mm-hmm. So now they have yes, establishes a connection, and lets them steer. I don't know if it'll work every time, but it'll keep them safer. I guarantee that.
Yep.
So they don't have to give them a no, which separates people. They say, yes, I'm not sure I want to do that today. Let's find something else to do. Teenagers, teach them what they need to protect themselves. I could go on and on. Maybe one question. You get the flavor of this, right? It's like,
oh, of course. It reminds me a lot of coaching in general with the yes and, as well as comedy, like especially improv, where the whole point is to say yes and just to build on what it is.
Allows you to shift. The yes and gives you the time to pick what you're going to say next. It's not really about the relationship. It is the same words. Not that I'm complaining, but it's very entertaining. You know, what's my line is hilarious.
Love that show.
But yes and in the context of relationship, because people come, the curriculum, so to speak, is us. You know, it's not really, I am a counselor, but I am not. The difference between counseling and coaching is whether you can't or you won't. If you can't, that you go to a counselor for. If you won't, I can help. And sometimes, you know, I say if you're addictions or all kinds of other leftover damages from childhood, there's a certain level you, me, and your spouse can deal with it. But beyond a certain point, time to go to a counselor. So as a parallel process, they go to VA, they go to Shrinks, they go to AA, Al-Anon, or NA, whatever you need to support yourself so we can be here together to work with you and your spouse. The curriculum is your marriage. The language of marriage, the distinctions of marriage. And if one person is not really present, that's where you go for counselor.
Yeah. I remember having conversations with my daughter about so many things, but what we've been working on a lot with her being a teenager is to, like, I want her to know that I am here as somebody to talk it out and to make the final decision. But at the same time, I want her to understand that she does have power and perspectives that I don't have. And so I want her to feel like she's a part of the conversation instead of not. So when she thinks that she's mature enough to do something and that it's a good idea, I'll be like, okay, I'm saying no to that, but here's why I'm saying no. So unless you present me with other information to change my mind, that's my answer. What other information do you have? And then she feels empowered to tell me different things.
Well, the yes and conversation helps you along pretty well because they want fiercely, distantly.
Yes.
And you say, yes, I'm listening.
Yep.
We don't get to react to our children because then it shuts off the communication.
Yeah.
Say, yes, and, tell me more. And they get to roll out their best ideas and considerations.
Mm-hmm.
If you listen long enough, number one, they feel honored and respected. All teenagers want to feel honored and respected.
Mm-hmm.
They feel heard. Feel heard. And you get the information as a parent to know how to respond appropriately as a parent.
Yeah.
And sometimes when they can listen to themselves, you find out it's not the Xbox, it's how they feel about their relationships and their struggles in school. But you won't get there unless you listen.
Exactly.
And there's these moments, when parents have to put their foot down. You can't wear that. Change your clothes. And they go, why? It's not safe. I'll be with my friends at the Tucson Mall. I'll be safe. And you say, darling, beloved child, you can hate me for a week, but I will never, ever surrender your well-being.
Yeah.
And I will never compromise your health and well-being, ever. I'm fine. If you want to help, you want to hate me for a week, that's great. But just get this, until you're an adult, many years hence, I have the last say. I invite you to accept that and be with that.
Yeah. We have a rule in our house. I was like, my job as your mom is to keep you happy, healthy, and safe. But the priority is in the reverse order. So if I'm talking about safety, I really want you to be happy, but I understand it's not going to right now. And she feels better knowing that.
Less is more. Just say, I will never compromise your health and safety. Change your policy.
Yeah.
Don't overword it.
No, she gets it. And there have been many times where she's like, I understand I'm not happy right now. I do understand you are prioritizing my safety, and I'm grateful for that. But I'm going to be mad at you for the next 24 hours. It's like, that's okay. It's okay. I love this conversation. Paul, I want to know a little bit about how you've decided to share this message of getting couples and different relationships to communicate better.
listen, I'm looking to have an influence on 1 billion people to start with, because I also talked to a lot of people in India, which they have arranged marriages.
Yes.
The spouse moves to her male spouse's household, dominated by her mother-in-law. I haven't made a dent in that yet, but and then I had a couple I saw not too long ago. They got married by arrangement, and a month later they moved to this country. A month later they moved to this country, and then they have 2 children, 18 and something years old. And his mother is still on the phone trying to control the deal.
Yeah.
Right? Or they live with them, multi-generation houses, right? Yep. In this country. And the spouse no longer is obligated to pay attention to what her mother-in-law says. One thing women get, praise God, is they have a choice. They do not obligate to stay in a marriage in the way they might have been obligated to stay in a marriage and take all kinds of from their mother-in-law. They can leave. Third challenge is that they're raising American children of Indian descent. They don't have the automatic acculturation that their parents did back in India. And so there's the stress, there's a tension between, you have an 18-year-old going to the University of Arizona, and parents, South Asian parents in Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, they get to find out a way how to be Indian-born parents with American-born children. So don't get me started on all the cultural challenges like Taiwanese and Americans and mainland Chinese and Philippines. Listen, after 5 or so thousand conversations, I picked up a lot of interesting stories. Did I answer your question? It's just, I'm committed to a world that works, and communication, and very high awareness of the power of language.
Yes.
Because existence has no language. Human beings add language to their experience of existence. So that's, firstly, it's great to know, because if you're interpreting someone as critical, judgmental, you can change them to confident and conservative. In your own mind, you can literally alter your relationship by noticing that, when they're critical and judgmental, but they're really careful and deliberate. Life happens. And all it is, you change your interpretation. I give them lots of interpretations and language tweaks. And I could go on for another hour on this one. I'm in it. A world that given by yes and is distinct from a world given by no and but.
Mm-hmm.
They get nothing else except yes ands on the word seems. I'll take a little sidebar for that, because we speak declaratively. I'm doing it now. It sounds like it's the truth. It may be an opinion, it may be a thought, but it sounds like the truth. And Aaron, you and Laura just automatically, good, bad, right, wrong, agree or disagree, automatically seek to evaluate what I've just said, whether it's valid or not. And if I don't, what I say to you doesn't go down well, we'll stop listening, we'll stop communicating, and start arguing about whose truth is truer, whose reality is most real, and who's right, and who's wrong. No communication, no listening, and for that we really need the word seems. Mm-hmm. Seems bypasses the truth app. Seems to me we bring up the past a lot. Seems to me that there's things we've not yet agreed upon. But seems will get you a conversation, a discussion, where truth will get you an argument. Yes, and seems. The can opener of communication. And if everybody had that and only that, the world would be in a vastly different space than it is today.
Yeah.
That's one of the points I made.
So, Paul, I want to ask if you're also a writer.
Well, yes, I blog. We're right now training an AI with my book.
Oh.
That's recipes. But I have lots of blogs, many Because sometimes 4 o'clock in the morning is my most productive time. Maybe the world is quieter. And I go, oh, then I write it down before it goes away. Don't get me started. I have many, many interesting thoughts. I'm having my web person download everything I ever did on Facebook so I can remember what I've said that's so wise. You can do it, by the way. Everything you've ever said in Facebook, it's somewhere in the security area.
Yeah.
Because there's things that I said, that really, that was pretty smart. Oh, really? So I'm going to use that for more blogs. And I write an article once a month for the Aura Valley something. Like I have to write an article on that next few days because that's their deadline. And so I've done some journalism, a little bit, and all the blogs online. And I've been podcasting a lot lately. In fact, I have 1 or 2 of them between today and tomorrow. I'm just, listen, yes and is very clear. It doesn't take long to learn yes ands, it seems.
Nope.
So I'm committed to a world that has a seems rather than a truth that we can argue about to no effect. I'm, as I said, passionate about this. I really want children to be safe.
Yeah.
I want women in counterproductive relationships to be safe. I want men to be aware of this. Men feel safe, I tell them. We have very little drop-down menu for safety. We'll handle it, no big deal. Well, no need to worry about it. But they really don't know that most women in this world do not feel safe.
Yes.
They don't. They get what? So they blithely raise their voices, and then she pulls back, or he just doesn't honor her feelings, and they pull back. This conversation happens in the Myers-Briggs part of the curriculum. With you, and I ask her after I've taught them how to listen to each other. Is there something that happens in the context of our marriage that leaves you feeling uncertain, unsafe? And he listens. I get to be kind of a midwife to relationships. And it's very satisfying.
So I love Myers-Briggs. I'm not so good at every single piece of it, but I do see you more as an IST something. I don't know the
INTP, introverted, intuitive thinker, perceiver.
See, with glasses, and I have you so small, I read eyes, and so usually I'll pick up on personality with that. But with glasses and glare, I can't really see that much. If I zoom in on you,
it's the area of our discussion that infidelity most often shows up. You think they're loving them because you're taking care of all these things. Can't you see how much I love you? But they're waiting to have fun and feel appreciated. And until you understand that, it's room for a lot of mischief.
Yeah.
Just to make a long story short, and my spouse is a judger. I'm a perceiver. And we figured out a year or 2 ago. When she says the word now and I say the word now, it's not the same word.
Interesting.
She'll say, the dog's on the leash, coat's on my back. You said you wanted to go. Let's go. And I'm going, but now we've adapted. She says, in 10 minutes, we're going to leave. Handle anything you get to handle so we can leave on time. Done.
Yeah.
Once you know who you're married to, you can dance with them. That's just one of the Myers-Briggs is brilliant.
I love it.
And this percentage, that really counts for a lot. If you take the 16personalities.com quiz, if you haven't, take it again. Yep. You come with a letter and a percentage. And I've had someone who are 100% judges more than once if it's not nailed down there on happy campers.
Oh, is that what okay, can you explain the difference between the judgers and the perceivers?
Perceivers are more, big one, a perceiver. Go with the flow, out of sight, out of mind. If you're a judger, you can watch me do breakfast this morning. It'll make you crazy. I start at one end of the counter. Oh, yeah, empty the dishwasher. Empty the dishwasher. Oh, right, set up the coffee. Oh, yeah, how to do this. And then I'll say, oh, yeah, right, I forgot to clear the counters. And I dance all around the kitchen 6 feet in any direction. And pretty much it's all done. But if you're a judger, it'll make you crazy. Why don't you do one thing at a time and do it, and then go on to the next? But I'm focused. The way I put it, my spouse is attuned to time. I'm in tune to place.
Oh.
What's in front of me, like couples, they come in and I haven't seen them in 2 weeks or more. And I don't remember what their faces look like until they should walk in the door. And then the folder opens up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's insight in mind, out of sight, out of mind. And I don't tell my spouse, her name is Rita, let's go somewhere without providing it with a destination. Because she needs to know shoes, no shoes, hat, no hat, sunscreen, no sunscreen. Can we take the dog? There's a dog-friendly patio. So I said, let's go to Agua Caliente Park. And then she knows she can anticipate the experience that she's signing up for. And I get quality time, one of my love languages.
Hmm.
And she says, let me do half an hour for laundry first, and I'll meet you. So she does acts of service, her main love language. I feel appreciated, and we all have quality time together.
Oh, that's so sweet.
That's why the homework for the first session, read the first 9 chapters of the 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. I give them the book.
Mm-hmm.
Go to 16personalities.com. Learn how your partner processes life. Some people are Sheldons, and some people are Pennies. Not that they ignore your feelings, it's just they don't notice their own.
Yep.
And listen, you see what I get to do for 5 sessions, right? And it's just eye-opening, heart-opening. And you don't. If you're not a judger, you don't say, "Judge, I'll handle it soon," without saying by when. Because if you say, "I'll handle it soon," trust me, I'm good for it. Then that means you have to do themselves to make sure.
Soon drives me crazy.
Right. You don't talk fuzzy to your judger. It's easy to love a judger, I say. Really, it's very easy to love a judger as long as you ever have good relationship to time.
Ah, okay.
Put it in time, it exists. Not in time, it doesn't.
I'm going to ask Erin something just for a moment. Erin, do you know what personality you have? Have you taken the 16 personalities or Myers-Briggs?
The last time, it was a while ago. ENFP, I believe. It
Very
was.
great. It's one of the most creative personalities.
Really?
Yeah. When you have
interesting.
an F and a P, you can consider and feel and then change your mind and take a new direction. The problem arises when you are raised in a family that are not anything near that. It leaves you confused, like, what's my feelings, their feelings, something wrong with me or not? Let's say you have an INTJ for father or mother, and they don't get you. They just don't.
Mm-hmm. I had a narcissistic mother, so.
And
I was in many domestic violence situations after, so I've learned a lot since then, but that's interesting. I appreciate that insight.
ENFPs are delicious people. Creativity, our artists are typically that. Our best musicians, artists, are exactly close to what you have. And NF with a P helps is even more creative.
Yeah.
And most misunderstood personality. I'm sorry to say that, and you know that from personal experience. A couple came to me and said, I was the only introvert in a family of extroverts, said she. I knew they loved me, but I never thought that I belonged. Interesting distinction, right?
Yep.
My daughter, bless her heart, was the only extrovert in a family of introverts, and she was always bored. Because extroverts get their energy out there with people.
Yes.
Introverts channel their own energy from internal processes. And just got this model down to 5 sessions, an hour and a half each, the first session being 2 hours long, set things up. And more than half get a lot of benefit, and probably another half of that half get immense benefits. Doesn't always work. And sometimes if divorce is midnight, sometimes they show up at 12:30. It means I have to work a little harder.
Yeah.
They've already moved apart. They live in two different locations. They've got kids to manage. They're co-parenting, and they don't like it. And they still love each other, but they don't know how to do it. And I show them how.
Oh, that's awesome. Paul, I want to make sure that we know where to find you and what your favorite way to communicate is.
It's very confusing. You can get messages from Facebook, from your SMS. Sometimes I don't know where people are from. LinkedIn, you can get messages from LinkedIn, and there's probably a few more. I would say if you want an immediate connection, text me. There's a contact opportunity on marriageandcommunication.com. Brilliant SEO, by the way. And my website is full of this comic strips and blogs and videos. And if you want something, if you want an immediate connection with me, it would be text or maybe a message via LinkedIn, perhaps. And then there's WhatsApp. People around the world are really WhatsApp users. They manage their businesses from within WhatsApp. They have a whole world of WhatsApp out there. And so the person who's doing my social media, he lives in India. He's 12 and a half hours ahead of me. But I'd say call, text, contact through my website.
Awesome. That sounds good. And I also like to hold space at the end of an interview, just in case there's something on your head or in your heart that you just need people to take away from this conversation.
Take good care of yourself. Many of the couples I've seen, she feels bad and wrong, and for a variety of reasons. But let's just be nice to yourself. Go take care of yourself. There's nothing wrong. It's just what to be responsible for.
I love that. So I do want to say thank you so much for being here with us, Paul, and sharing your communication strategies, the yes and, the seams. Oh, I wrote them down. And the tend to versus the always and better. Just so many little insights here and there.
Girl, get my book, Marriage and Communication, Recipes for Life, !
Do you have a copy with you so that we can see it?
Let's see. Not sure where I put them. I'm having another 100 copies coming in the next day or so.
Oh, nice.
The cover looks like this.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Picture says it all. You don't have to read anything. Just see what these couples are really dialed into each other.
Yeah.
And that's the relationships I want out there.
Yeah. I like that cover. Thank you, Paul.
I'd be honored and thrilled to serve our populations, Blue Talks. I get a lot from immediacy. Even during COVID, they would come face to face, 9 feet away, and the fan blowing in their face. But I get energy from being with you all and watching a video of a program, which I think is going on this weekend. It's a little. I can probably spend as much as an hour in front of a Zoom, but I just leak energy. It just coming in. So I would love to. I love to do a TED Talk. I would love to. The next evolution, by the way, is getting into the corporate world. Because if your employee brings their marriage to job performance and productivity, take a hit. If your managers do not know how to communicate with mutual honor and respect, they do more time in disputation than collaboration. It becomes very expensive. So I'm looking to connect to the business world, because you may have your best salesperson. I was in a meeting the other day, but if they're now challenged by a teenager, or paying for college, or a break because they've been spending so much time in their marriage rather than married at work than at their marriage, even your best producer, it goes down.
does.
And. So corporate world. Corporate world. 10,000 people work for Raytheon here in Tucson. And there are 6 Amazon warehouses, just for starters. And then this month in Air Force Base, Fort Huachuca, Luke Air Force Base, which is a bit further north. And these couples, they move from deployment to deployment. And I'd like them to have a home to come back to at the end of their day.
Yeah,
That sounds nice.
that's
So,
beautiful.
Paul, I do want to say that this is like the official end of your interview. So thank you so much. But at the same time, we have a couple minutes after the official interview is over, just to kind of do a little bit of a recap. So I like to ask the question of all of us, and I'm going to start with you, Paul. What is something that stood out to you in our conversation today?
Well, great questions and great listening, and patience and tolerance for my segues.
Everything we talk about is
what you see is what you get. If I get to be a speaker, wherever it is, I get to speaker. What I just said today, you'll hear that.
Awesome. What about you, Aaron? What's something that stood out for you?
Yes, and that is powerful.
Yes.
Absolutely powerful. I've been working on self-awareness and my responses to things. So that is a powerful tool. Thank you for that.
And I reemphasize how to live a life given by choice, possibility, opportunity, and you're the driver. That's a get-to life. Life given by obligations and circumstances, which is a survivor's life. Most people tend to survive life. You can have to go to work or you can get to go to work. You can have to do your homework or you can get to do your homework. Total difference in 2 vowels.
Absolutely.
I get you, and I enjoy every single second of doing this show. It's like I'm an extrovert. This is where I thrive. One of the things that stood out to me was when you said that you organized your book in recipes so that you can really flip through and choose the thing that you need in the moment. It gives you the answer right away. And then if you want to read the fluff, if you want to get more information, it's right there too.
Exactly.
I love that. It drives me nuts when you have like the 300-page books and I'm like, I'm a slow reader. It's going to take me months to get through this.
Book is 8 by 10. Books have the workbook. There's lots of empty space to put things down. And awesome. if just adopting the word yes and intends to does it for you, come back later, read more.
Oh yeah, tends to.
Marriage and communication, recipes for life.
Thanks. Well, thanks again, Paul, for joining us. I appreciate you so much for coming back today. So thank you.
I'm thrilled and daunted by what, writing a book is not the end, it's the beginning.
It really is.
I did not know that.
Awesome. So we will connect again soon.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Paul.
Anybody whose marriage is starting to fray, send them my way. I'll take care of them.
Thanks. Bye, Paul.
Bye. Thanks for being here. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So our next guest is behind the scenes. Zander, just give me a thumbs up if you are ready. I'm also going to just take like a 1-minute break.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm going to throw responsibility onto Aaron for a moment to just chat with you.
Sure.
And I will literally be back in about 6
Not a problem.
Hello.
Hey, how are you, Aaron?
I'm doing great. I'm very grateful to be here today.
So am I.
I'm reading the LPCC. What does that stand for?
Licensed Professional Clinical Counselor.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. How long have you been doing that?
I've been a licensed LPCC for 4 years now.
Amazing.
5 years, actually. 5 years.
Was there something that brought you there?
Well, the funny thing, Aaron, is I majored in history and psychology, thought I'd go into counseling, took a 22-year detour through the corporate world and high tech and did all kinds of jobs I had no qualification or reason to do, but loved every second of it. And then I started to amazingly write some books. And
That's amazing.
I'm telling you, if you told me in college I was going to write a book, I've written 3 books, 2 of them Amazon bestsellers. I would have told you that you were drunk or on drugs or something, because I'm a talker, not a typer. But I wrote books, and part of it, I'm going to talk more about my epic side, but the other side of what I do is I'm an expert in sibling loss, and I advocate for sibling survivors and stuff. So getting my mental health license was in part because I wanted to educate more mental health professionals on how to help siblings. And the best way for me to do that is to have a master's and be licensed, because then they'll listen to me.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So I'm sorry I missed the beginning of that.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
But I heard the word mental health and I was like, oh, we need to chat afterwards. Okay.
Yes.
But at the same time, I want to know what you said, but at the same time, I don't want to know what you said, because I want to ask you my beginning question that I ask everybody that tells me a little bit about who you are before you tell people who you are.
All right.
So thank you for playing with me on this. So Zander, I love this question. If you could have other people describe you in 3 words, what would you love those 3 words to be?
God of enthusiasm.
Okay. Enthusiasm. I like that you made it a phrase instead of like, here's one attribute, here's another attribute. Okay. Because here's what the follow-up is how does God of enthusiasm, which I love, by the way, how does that play a role in the core message that you have for people?
Well, honestly, I am so passionate about what I do. My core message that I'm going to be talking about today is that epic begins with 1 step forward. I believe we've all done epic things in our life already. We somehow forget all of these epic things. But more importantly, I think there are things that we always say, someday I'd like to write a book, or I'd like to run a marathon, or I want to travel here. And we don't do it. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, but why not? The hardest thing to do, and it's not even that hard, is to take that first step. I actually just did it. I'm living what I'm talking about. I had always dreamed of having a TV show, and I just filmed yesterday the first 3 episodes of my new TV show. I made it happen, and it wasn't nearly as difficult as I thought, honestly.
So now you're a big TV star.
I'm working on it. It's. I think it's a process. I filmed it at my local public access station, which was like broadcast quality. You wouldn't know, it's not like when I first thought of someone's like, oh, go to public access. And I'm like, okay, there's going to be like some rickety camera it's going to be like,
nope.
It's not. It's like, oh my gosh. So, and then it'll be up on my YouTube channel and stuff. So I'm really excited about that. But I'm leaning hard into all things epic.
Okay, I have so many definitions for epic.
Oh, I have one for you.
What is your definition of epic?
Every pilgrimage includes commitment.
Every
Ooh.
pilgrim. I hope I'm spelling this right. Nope. Every pilgrimage. There we go.
Includes commitment. And I'm not using it really sort of so much in the I'd say the religious standpoint, more that we have epic journeys that we want to go on. And a lot of these take time. They're not instant, right? I use many things in my life as example, but one of them was I decided to go to graduate school at 45. I then had to get 3,000 hours of internship to be able to take the licensing exam to become a licensed professional clinical counselor. I was on like a 7-year epic journey, but there's obviously a lot of that pilgrimage. I knew where I wanted to get to, included heck of a lot of commitment.
So then, okay, you can fill me in now. Give me like the gist of
What I was talking about before.
Yeah, what you're talking about.
Okay, so I was just talking about. Erin asked me, how I became a licensed professional clinical counselor. And I said, look, I majored in history and psychology. In college, I thought I was going to go into counseling. I took a 22-year detour through the corporate world, a lot of it high tech. I did a lot of jobs I was wholly unqualified to do, but had a heck of a lot of fun doing them.
Yeah.
And but then I started to write books. I've written 3 books, 2 of them Amazon bestsellers. And so really going to talk about the epic, but the other thing, and we can bring it in because we got time. I wrote 2 books on sibling loss, one for siblings and one for parents to understand their living child's grief. That's what you see over my shoulder. And I want to work with mental health providers also to help them understand how to best do counseling for sibling survivors. So what I had to do was go have a master's and be licensed so that they'll listen to me, even though the knowledge I got in grad school was great, but I already have a PhD in sibling loss. I didn't need to go to school for that.
When you were talking about the sibling loss and treating the surviving child differently, I watched a show on Netflix. I'm just trying to figure out what the name of the show is, but it had Lisa Kudrow in it.
Yeah, that's I just got No Good Deed.
Oh, that's what it was. I think it was.
I just finished that show yesterday. So
Did you?
Yeah.
Because I'm watching and I didn't realize that they even had a second kid.
Yeah.
Until like halfway through the season, you find out, yes, they do. And the only person this kid talks to is the dad because the mom is so distraught.
Yeah. And the mom's leaving voicemails for him all the time.
Yeah. Oh, man. It was a good show, though.
Yeah, really good.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's a nice heavy topic. How did you get into that?
28 years ago, my older sister was murdered. And so that's what I call epic unexpected. I have a whole, like in my podcast and my TV show, I'll have sort of a special segment called Epic Unexpected. A lot of times I'm talking to other sibling survivors because I'm trying to raise awareness for it. What I discovered was there is a real lack of resources and information for siblings. And I wrote my first book because of an offhanded comment by a friend of mine who lost her brother. I was having coffee with her and she's like, yeah, I was just in Borders and there was a ton of books on loss of a parent and loss of a child, but really nothing on loss of a sibling. And as I walked away, I'm like, well, I know that. I should write a book about that.
Yes.
And so I did. And then I sat on the book for 5 years because I really didn't believe that I could write. I had lots of feedback from my academic career that I wasn't a particularly good writer. And I kept telling people I was coming out with a book, but I was no more coming out with a book than Fly to the Moon. And I didn't want to be one of those people 20 years later going, oh, I'm coming out with a book. And people go, yeah, Zander, we've heard that. So I took an epic first step. I put the book out there and an amazing thing happened. People liked it. People found it helpful.
Aww,
and
that's really sweet.
And you talk about like that imposter syndrome. I would have believed more if people told me it wasn't worth the paper it was printed on.
Yeah.
Than, when they told me that it was helpful and they liked it. So, and now I've written 2 more books and oh my gosh.
Aww. Okay. Where did that belief system come from that you are not a good writer, that you should not be writing a book?
Well, I think I'm naturally, I joke I'm a talker, not a typer. Best class I took in college was I had to give a 2-hour lecture. Most people hated it. I loved it.
Uh-huh.
And so I think had I been able to take my exams as oral exams, I probably would have had much better grades because I knew the stuff. I just really hate writing, so I'm trying to get it done as quickly as possible. And the way I wrote my books was I figured out, this isn't my term, it's my business coaches, but it's called the spoken author method. So I dictated my books, had them transcribed, and then I had something to work with. So, once I had something written down, I'm like, it's not quite the way I want to say it. But there's not just one way to do things. And whatever our epic journey is, we have to be open that there may be more than one way to get to your destination.
That's really what I want to highlight in some of these interviews is first, I want to highlight you as a human being.
Yeah.
And not just here's my business, here's my offer, here's my message.
Yeah.
But you're a human being that isn't going to stay this exact way for the rest of their life.
Well,
you're going to evolve.
Again, when I'm talking to people about like what their big dream, that epic journey they want to go on.
Yeah.
And so often people go, well, I don't know. I don't have all the answers. Well, here's how I answered that. I got up this morning, but I certainly did not have all the answers to all the questions I'm going to get asked today, but it didn't prevent me from getting out of bed. So just because you don't have the answers doesn't mean you don't move forward. You don't take that one step forward and then go, hey, that wasn't too hard. Let me take the next step.
Okay, I want to make an analogy because I love analogies and they help a lot.
So do I.
And it's based off of what our last guest was talking about with recipes. So here's the analogy. If you're the type of person that needs one of those like mail order recipe, all the ingredients, maybe you have to hire somebody to come cook for you, and that's the all your answers type person. Can you also be that person that says, I have these types of things in my fridge. Here's what I'm actually willing to eat right now. How can I cook them together in my own recipe to feed the satisfaction that I'm looking for?
Absolutely. Look, for me, recipes are great. It's a blueprint.
Yeah.
But the way that you go to a restaurant and there's something new, there's a new twist on something, that happened because the chef said, I wonder what would happen if I did this.
Yes.
Right? Well, we can do that at home. Think about this. How many times have you gone to a restaurant and they bring you bread and they have the olive oil with a little balsamic vinegar? You go, oh my God, this is so good. Right?
Once.
And yet at home, we don't do it. And it's not hard, folks.
No.
Olive oil, balsamic vinegar in a little bowl, loaf of bread. And yet we don't do it. We wait till we go to a restaurant.
Yep.
Why? Don't make things more difficult than they need to be.
Actually, I've been exploring a lot lately because I've been wanting to take some of those pieces and to not have all the answers. And I'm also learning to cook, but more on the science part of it now.
Yeah.
So I've been starting to create my own baking recipes, not even like supper cooking. No, baking, which is more science.
Clearly, Laura also watched lessons in chemistry.
I know. Okay, so I skipped grade 11 chemistry, went straight into grade 12.
No,
and since grade 12 was all math, I was fine.
I know, but Laura, there's a TV show called Lessons in Chemistry, which is awesome.
Is it?
And it is about a chemist who ends up doing a TV show, and she's talking about the chemistry of cooking.
No, but I need to watch that now.
You do. It's awesome.
I did watch one. I think it was called like fat, sugar, salt, something. It was like the 4 main ingredients.
Right.
And that was the show that inspired me to be like, I can do this.
Definitely.
I get the basics now. Let's try something that is not a recipe.
Definitely.
Yeah. Oh, I love that we're bringing in all this conversation. Go ahead, Erin.
Okay. I love cooking and I love making new things all the time. So yeah, it's been, yeah.
So I'm gonna twist it just a little then, Zander.
Absolutely.
What does food and recipes, how does that mix in with this idea of the epic, meaning every
again, an epic journey.
Commitment.
Why shouldn't cooking be an epic journey? Let me see what happens. Look, sometimes you fail horribly. right?
Oh, yes.
You try, you're like, here, what if I put some, cumin in this? And maybe cumin would help. And you taste it and you're like, oh my God, no, I just ruined it. Or I put too much salt in, or too much sugar, or not enough, or whatever, right? Here's the thing. Failure is part of the journey. We are not going to get everything right 100% of the time. And in fact, the only thing that you're going to fail 100% at are the things that you do not try. I remember years ago, I read All I Ever Needed to Know I Learned in Kindergarten by Robert Fulghum. And I loved that book. It was great. One of the stories that Chicken Soup for the Soul. I liked, but Chicken Soup for the Soul, there's a chapter, and it literally is a laundry list of failure. Okay. It's like 1830, ran for state legislature, lost. And these dates are not specific, but I'm just going to sort of make it up as I go on. Okay.
Sure.
1835, wife dies in childbirth. Open business, bankrupt. Ran for state representative, got it. Ran for U.S. Congress, lost. Won. You go through this whole, just like what any one of them would be a devastating, like setback. Okay. Mm-hmm. There's victories, but there's lots of failure. And then it says 1860, elected president of the United States. We're talking about Abraham Lincoln.
I was going to say, it sounds like Abe.
Right. And so I love that story because it's like, yes, he failed. And some of it spectacularly, right? Had to declare bankruptcy and all of this. I fail as an entrepreneur all the time, not because I want to, but because I try something. I joke that as an entrepreneur, I'm a generous person because I try new tools, right? New productivity tools, and you pay for it. It's not that the tool is bad. It's just not the right tool for me.
Yeah.
Right. And so I've spent money and then I'm like, no, I'm not going to use it. That doesn't work for me. I don't like it. It's too confusing. It's not the way I think or whatever. And then I discover the tool that I'm like, oh my gosh, this is great. I can't believe, how have I lived without this? Right.
Yeah.
So I think with cooking, with whatever your epic adventure is, understand that it's not going to go right all the time, right? One of the queens of DIY, Martha Stewart, right? You watch her show and everything looks perfect, and yet you know that there's got to be stuff that she was doing for the show that just didn't work out well, right? I remember years ago there was like some Martha at Christmas with Martha Stewart, and she made this kind of Christmas tree type thing of puff pastries, and she had Julia Child there, and Martha's looked perfect, right? It was all perfect and they're all filled perfectly. I'm like, I wonder how many production assistants spent days filling it. Then you see Julia Childs, who was clearly working on it herself. It was more like the way all of ours would turn out, where they were kind of, the puff pastries were sort of collapsed a little because when you put the toothpick in,
Yes.
And I was like, that is, yes, we want perfection, but we're not going to get it. We watch on TV some chef and go, oh my God, that looks great. And then we do it ourselves and it tastes good, but it's not like this beautiful thing. You think about like when we see food ads and there's a whole science around shooting,
Yes.
and the great videos on YouTube, if you don't know, where they're showing you behind the scenes, like how they're making the hamburger look so juicy and stuff. And yet you go to get it and it's good, but it's not like this glistening, where the lettuce is fluffy and the tomato is absolutely the perfection of ripeness and just the right. And it's not. It's okay. It still tastes good. Still eat it. Still enjoyed it.
You're like, I'm going to look at it for 30 seconds while I go, "Rawr."
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, that reminds me of one of our favorite shows in this house called Nailed It.
Yeah.
Where they have, like, for those who don't know, they have somebody who probably took like 16 hours making this gorgeous, intricate thing. And then they ask amateur bakers who can burn boiled eggs like I used to be able to, and ask them to create these wonderful things, which just most of the time fall over and look really ugly.
Yeah.
And sometimes are dangerous to eat.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Totally.
I love it. Okay, Zander, I want to get a little bit more into the ways that you share your message. I know that you had the books. Obviously, you do podcasts. Do you have your own podcast?
I do.
What's it called?
Epic begins with one step forward. As I said, I'm leaning hard into the epic begins with one step forward and all things
Good.
epic. I've gone so far as the license plate on one of my cars says epic for us, because I believe that epic is for all of us.
Yeah.
Amazing.
You and I definitely need to talk more afterwards.
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, I'm doing it through the podcast, the TV show that's coming up soon, my book, just trying to share that message, not only with individuals, but also with companies. I think I worked 22 years in the corporate world and some really big companies. And so many companies aren't taking advantage of the strengths that their employees have, right? So they're in one job, but you want to know what? Maybe the person who loves public speaking, even though that's not part of their job, is the person who should be doing, like, you should be putting out front. And I worked 5 years at Intel, and I was working with universities and colleges to help them change their computer science curriculum to teach parallel programming. So I got to speak a little, and I just offhand, like one of those, it just happened. I got asked to fill in for someone to do a tour of one of the facilities. And I'm like, okay, I like to meet people. I like to talk to people. So I talked to them. Then I got asked to start to go to some of our local, like where we were at on trade show floors. And I was sort of doing, I'll call it bartering people to come for stuff, because somebody totally unrelated, like not even in my division, was like, you put a microphone in his hand and this man goes off and he's good and he's enthusiastic. He is perhaps the god of enthusiasm. Like, I just radiate energy. And I'm not saying, I didn't name myself that. There were a couple of different people who were like, oh my God, you were just so enthusiastic about what you're doing. And one person said the god of enthusiasm. And I'm like, there you go.
Okay, just to kind of go on that same parade for a little bit, I went to a science and entrepreneurship camp, which is the only camp I've ever been to.
Yeah.
And
it's just like a
like,
camp story.
What?
Is this
no,
like
I have
one time a band camp? No, sorry.
Okay, one time a drama fest. I wore ribbons to a toga party over my clothes. It's all good. No, but I went to a science and entrepreneurship camp, and they're looking at me the whole time because they're like, "What is going on? How is she always happy no matter what we're doing?" So then by the end of it, they gave me this little award. It's like bright yellow, and they called it the Happy Camper Award. And they're like, "For always smiling, like no matter what." I was like, okay.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I'm like, ocean, yeah. Martial arts, yeah. Going hiking, yeah. So good.
Cold shower, yeah.
No, it wasn't that kind of camp. We actually stayed at the college up there, so it was dorm rooms.
Okay, well.
It wasn't campground.
Cockroaches, yeah.
Cockroaches, yeah. So, I want to ask you a different question I've been asking.
Sure. Let's go in a different direction, Laura.
Let's go a slightly different direction. it's fun to know what people have already chosen to share their message. And it's fun to know that, of course, people choose the typical speaking, author, podcast, that kind of stuff. And it is also fun to know things like singing, dancing, and all those other kind of things that people do. But here's my question for you specifically. If there could be some sort of crazy, cool, creative, maybe it doesn't even exist yet way that you would like to share your message, and if you could just snap your fingers and make it happen, how would you love to share your message?
Well there, Laura, let me introduce you to this guy I know from the state of Maine.
Okay.
And oh my God, if he could get up there and tell all those people out there that if you come to Maine, what we want to say is, thanks for coming, now leave. Believe it or not, I am also a professional recording artist. I recorded a comedy album of Tall Tales from Maine, and I can call myself a professional recording artist because I've earned royalties off of it for the last decade.
Nice.
And so what is that thing? I don't look. I want to be on TV. I am on TV, but I want to, bigger. I'd love to be in a movie.
Okay.
All of us are really creative, and yet so many people tamp it down. I'm like, look, anything's possible. Maybe I am going to be, I look back and go, wow, these things I did. I recorded an album. I actually got it out there and some people bought it. Cool. I made royalties. I'm on TV. I'm on a podcast. I get to speak on stages. I would love to fill a stadium and have 20,000 people all excited to hear me speak. I know I'm speaking your language, Laura.
Oh, that is my dream, Zander.
Isn't it?
Oh, yes.
I
like
mean,
the tiered audience and everything. Yeah.
And they're just all,
But the difference is I don't want them to be like, because it's me. I want them to be like, because this experience is awesome.
Yes, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
Part of me wants it because they're excited to see me, but yes, I want them to be excited for them realizing that they don't need to put off their dreams, that they can start to do what they dream of doing. And yeah, a lot of times what we want to do is crazy and scary.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact of the matter is, there are things that I've done in my life, like write books, which I'm like, that's just absolutely like, in college, I would have said, I don't know, are you drunk? Are you like this is just, no, I'm never going to write a book.
Yeah.
And yet I've written 3. If you told me I was going to be a best-selling author, I'd be like, oh, I might write a book, but there's no way I'd be a best-selling author. And yet I've done it twice. Anything is possible if we set our mind to it.
Yep.
How about this one? For all of us, the world is our oysters, and we get all the pearls. You just have to go collect them.
Okay, what if you're allergic to oysters?
Are you allergic to pearls, Laura?
I don't like pearls.
Okay, well, fine. Diamonds? There's a hole everywhere and a diamond in there. I don't know.
No, we're going to make it worse. I'm allergic to most metals. The one metal I can wear is sterling silver, which is too soft for real diamonds.
Well,
unless they're like super
I guess that's good for your partner because he's like, well, I don't have to, can't buy diamonds, can't buy her jewelry. Yay!
No, it really was. We paid $7 for my wedding band and $49 for the engagement ring. He was like, now I can actually go on a honeymoon. I was like,
yeah, no doubt.
It was great. So Zander, I want to know a little bit more about this whole recording artist thing for non-selfish reasons.
Of course. So I grew up in New England. My family has a house in Maine. I love maniacs. I mean, they are they don't mince words, and they're very literal, right? So back in I think the 50s or 60s, there was a guy named Marshall Dodge who had albums that I listened to, and he did this series called Bert and I, right? And so there's these things that people say in Maine, which is all, very true. So in general, people in Maine don't really like outside. They want the tourists to come because, they want the income, but they really don't want you to stay. So much so that it used to be that as you're leaving the state of Maine in York, there's a toll plaza, and at Labor Day they had someone dressed as a moose waving to the people leaving the state. Okay, so but in Bert and I, there's this famous thing where this guy pulls up and there's a farmer in the field, and he goes, "Does this road go to Bangor?" And the farmer goes, "Road don't go nowhere." Like literally, like meaning, no, the road is right there. It's not going anywhere. And so it's all about how specific you ask that question. So with my family, I would make jokes, and I guess I'm a really creative. I am a creative. I shouldn't say maybe I'm not. I'm a creative person. My brain is always going, what am I? So I started to make up tall tales like Marshall Dodge did. And then I kind of had enough that I'm like, hey, I should record. I should just record this. So I started off, and you want to know your best recording studio? You have it. Your car is an awesome recording studio because it's kind of soundproof. So you don't have echoes. The sound sounds really good. So if you can't get into a recording studio, sit in your car and record it. We all have, our phones are good enough to do it. We certainly have good enough microphones that you can speak into, but you could sit in your car and it will sound really good. There's not exterior sound. You may look a little strange sitting in your garage talking to yourself if someone comes out and asks what you're doing, but that's okay. And then this day and age, we can release books and videos and movies and stuff and just put it out there. You don't know who's going to like what you have to listen to. Over the years, I've gotten emails, and just randomly where someone's like, my kids love your album. They love this track. There's one called The Moose in the School Bus, which is this tall tale about a snowstorm and the person couldn't do it, and there's a moose driving the school bus. And it's all like as if it's factual. Well, a door opened and there was a moose. They get on, we're going to school. So that's kind of how I did it. I was like, I'd like to do it. And I guess I believe ridiculously that I can do anything. And even if no one else bought it, I had fun doing it.
I remember when my daughter was young, we have this book. It's called Naughty Mabel.
Yeah.
And the dog is dressed like snooty French beret, baguette, all of the stereotypes. And so I would have this really weird accent that I would read the book in. And of course, the kids loved it. So much so that every time we had a sleepover, I had to read this book and I had to do the voice. If not, they'd be very mad. So one day, my daughter and I recorded a video of us just reading the book so that we could send it to her friends.
Definitely. Well, I did. I've got two super quick stories. Yeah. One was I have two daughters, and they were both going. They went to the same preschool, and at different times they were in a classroom where there were the dinos, right?
Oh, yeah. And
they had a thing that was called Dino of the Day. That was the person who got to lead people out to the playground, and they got to pass out snacks or something, and it just rotated. Well, I was feeling creative. I made up a song about Dino of the Day. And I can't sing. Let me be clear. There's things I can do, but singing is not one of them.
Okay.
Someone told me who can sing, they equated my singing to a wounded moose, but no, it's okay. Okay. There's the things that the things we know we can do and the things that we just try and know that just really not. Anyway, my daughters are 20 and 18. The school is still using the Dino of the Day, and those kids still love it. And I was blown away. I'm like, I knew one of the teachers. I'm like, oh. And she goes, I want you to know, we use that every day, and the kids love this song. And it's a simple song. I'll share it with everyone because now I've teased it enough.
Yeah.
And please excuse how bad the singing is, but Dino of the day, who will it be? Is it you? Is it me? Dino of the day, is today your day?
Aww.
Simple enough.
For the kids, yeah.
And then the other thing that I did was my girls were little. My wife and I traveled a lot, and when my wife was traveling, I went to entertain them at night. So I started making up these stories about Bobo the hobo who traveled on trains and had these really great adventures, and they were positive. And so when it was like story time, like, oh, no, don't read a book. We want a Bobo story. So I had all of these, and I started to write down like the general idea.
Yeah.
And at some point, I hope to make a book, and who knows, I might get, shunned out because, I'm saying Bobo the hobo, but it's all really positive. They were, I myself in the stories became president, and Bobo came to help out. And so I had code names for the girls, like the Secret Service has code names for people. So I was a runner because at the time I was doing marathons. My wife was a reader because she likes to read. My older daughter was cartwheel because she loved doing cartwheels. And my younger one was Blondie because she had blonde hair. Mm-hmm. And my girls loved those stories. And they actually just at Christmas were like, are you ever going to make that into a book? Because those were really good. All of that came because I just wanted to entertain my kids. And I love being creative. I think so many of us stifle that. As kids, well, at least growing up, I'm old enough, I played a lot with my friends, and we made up, games and stories and adventures and, and all of that. I guess I never let that die.
Kind of sounds like Dungeons and Dragons to me.
No.
No, in our household, it's like we make up stories. We play together that way. Zander, I do want to be mindful of time. We have about 2 minutes left of this official interview.
How quickly?
I know. I want to make sure people know where to find you and what your favorite way to communicate is.
Absolutely. Well, clearly my favorite way to communicate is talking. However, epicbegins.com is the best way to get a hold of me. You can also find me on YouTube. My channel is Epic Begins with One Step Forward, or YouTube/Epic_Begins. I'm on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn. Again, look for Zander Sprague, ZanderSprague. You can Google Zander Sprague. You will find me. Trust me, I'm trying to make it easy to find me.
Nice.
And I'm here. If you're ready to begin your epic journey, if you're not sure how to do it, but you have a dream, give me a call. I love to help people go after the things they want. And it's so exciting and satisfying when I get to check in with someone who decided that they wanted to run that marathon, and I've helped them. And then I get to find out that they did complete the marathon and how excited they are. But even if they don't, they still went on that adventure.
Yep. And I think all those little adventures that you were speaking of with the stories and the songs that in the moment when they first started seemed like this little thing became epic because they were definitely from the heart, definitely in the moment, and definitely from a place of joy.
Absolutely. And sometimes the things that we struggle the most at are the most rewarding.
Yeah.
And then we discover that we are a heck of a lot more resilient and capable of so much more than we ever imagined.
Mm.
I'm not running as much these days, but I've run 10 halves, 4 fulls, and a 50K ultra. One of those marathons I ran, I was lucky enough to do the 2014 Boston Marathon. Let me be clear, I got in on a sponsor exemption. I am not fast enough. And in fact, I am slower than an 85-year-old woman. But that's not the point of the story. The point is, when I started off, I said, I'd like to run a marathon. I had no idea how I was going to run 26.2 miles. That's a really, really long way. But I asked for help. I got help. I got a training calendar. And I ran them.
Awesome. I do want to be mindful. We're almost at the cutoff. Thank you so much, Zander, for all of this. And I'm going to say this is the official end of our interview, but we do have a few minutes left of the show. So we do invite you to stay for a couple minutes because I like to do a bit of a recap.
Sure.
So I'm going to go through all of us, but I'm going to start with you. What is something that stood out to you in our conversation today?
I think you and I are lost siblings.
Okay.
We clearly have, when I talked about public speaking and, speaking in front of a stadium, you're like, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Dream. Yeah. What about you, Erin? What is something that stood out to you?
I love the epic, the one step forward. For me, I had the opposite of sibling loss. I actually gained siblings. Okay. I found out my dad wasn't my dad, and I have new family. So for me to take that epic step, I met them and, gaining new family and stuff like that. So yeah, just being able to take that next step.
Definitely.
Is so important.
It is.
Ooh, okay, something that stood out to me. I loved the idea and the courage of, in those moments, finding those little things that people just happened to mention, and you taking it and running with it and just creating something from it that was meaningful.
Yeah, definitely.
And it didn't need to be meaningful to the masses. It was meaningful to the person that you wanted it to be meaningful for, but it had an epic impact in its surrounding area.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And yeah, Zander, my dream is the 2 or 3 tier audience. We've got 10,000 plus people. I want the claps and the applause, but again, for the experience of all of us being there and being like, yeah, this is going to be so good. Because then I picture myself sitting on the edge of the stage and having an intimate conversation with the 10,000 people to make it feel like we're just sitting in a coffee shop, shooting the shit, getting to know each other and saying, look, I love you. I care about you. Everybody in the audience knows where you are and cares about you too. We are all here for you. What are we going to do today?
Yeah.
Here's what we're working on. Cool. Let's do it. And everybody can feel it like that. Oh.
For me, what it is when I start to talk about whatever and everyone already knows it. Sort of like when you go to a concert and everyone knows the words and wants to sing with you.
Oh, that's so good. Do you picture yourself in front of an audience, Erin?
Since I was little, I thought I was going to be on a stage. I thought it was going to be for singing, but with the way my life has set up, I have lots of stories. So maybe I'll put them together.
Aw, singing stories.
And the one thing I didn't get in
there really
because we were doing it, but I did want to share with you guys. Oh, let that sneeze come. Is 2 words that I think are really important for both of you. Not yet. Okay. I haven't filled a stadium yet. I'm going to. It's possible. And I like not yet for my journeys because it says, no, Have you finished your book? No. Makes it sound like it's never going to happen, but it's not yet.
It's
Love
coming.
that.
I can feel it coming. I can see it coming. I know it's coming. Yeah. It's like I'm finally to that point where it feels like some of these things are indeed real and that they can happen. Because one of the shifts I made earlier this year is growing up poor, you're only allowed things that you need.
Yeah.
Not things that you want. Things that you want were frivolous. No, unless
Sure.
it's Christmas or your birthday, maybe. And so in January, I was like, wait, I'm allowed to want things just for the sake of wanting things.
Well, and when we want it, then we find a way to try and go get it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So I would love to sit here all day and talk to both of you, but I'm supposed to be meeting the kids at the gym at the same time as ending the live stream.
No problem.
So I do want to just say, I would love to just take a moment. Zander, you did have a little bit of behind the scenes time. If we think of the entire day's conversation, what's something that you just want to highlight before we end our day today?
The things that we dream about are indeed possible if you simply take one step forward. Because that first step is not nearly as hard as you imagined it was.
No. What about you, Erin? Out of all of today.
Yeah, I was going to say the inspired action and to never give up. I mean, everyone that has spoken today has, been through trials and tribulations and has never given up and continued to pursue their dreams, even if it's through challenges. And that's beautiful. And to be able to inspire others with it.
Yeah. Oh, today was definitely a highlighted day of challenges. And I do want to say thank you to those who were vulnerable and did share those pieces of their story, which can be on the more difficult side. I really appreciate when people are open like that. And I do want to say to all of our audience, thank you so much for joining us for day 2 of Blue Talk's Amplify Your Message. We are back tomorrow for day 3. And guess what? After we end tomorrow, we're doing a networking event. So if you would like to come say hello to me and a few of our other guests, co-hosts, different people in the Blue Talks community, we would love to have you. It starts at 2:30 p.m. Eastern. Just message me or join the Amplify Your Message Facebook group and you will get a link. All the registration information is there. Also, I do want to remind people that the Experts Bootcamp to help you amplify your message is going to be on the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. It's free. Learn how to land a TED Talk. Learn how to get on stages and get paid. Learn about all these kinds of things. And we have some wonderful celebrities and business owners and Blue Talks people there to help you with it. So I'm excited. I will see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern for day 3. Much love. Bye, everyone. And then I'm going to sing and dance as I click the end stream. And I'll see you in the backstage.